All right. Uh, so whenever you're ready, Destiny, we get started. So for everyone else here, if you're not familiar yet, Destiny, actually, are you here, Destiny? You're unmuted on our end.
Yeah, I'm here. What's up?
Uh, so a lot of people here already know you, and others don't. Um, Obviously, we're mostly a political server, so I was wondering if you could I guess, if you're going to use labels, how would you describe yourself politically for people that aren't familiar with you?
Yeah, so economically, I'd be either a SOCDEM or a neoliberal. If you're very far left, you might call me a neoliberal. If you're conservative, you'll probably call me a SOCDEM. And then socially, I am very progressive, broadly speaking, I guess.
Okay. So let's see here. So we've got a bunch of questions here. We're going to kind of keep them pretty uh, short question answer. If there's anything that, you don't want to talk about, just say you don't really want to answer. That's obviously fine. If it's something you'd like, more info on or whatever that's unclear, we can try to get more from the user.
Sure. I'm pretty open about everything, so we can probably talk about whatever, but hit me up.
Okay. So our first question comes from Darnell. Darnell asks if you could give us your opinions on the Iran affair.
Oh, I mean, that's a pretty big question. I- is this like like more specifically, like, should we have killed Soleimani or our approach to Iran in general or
I think it's
Iran
about
like trying to
Soleimani.
arrest? Um, this is something that I'm still like really torn on. I don't know how this is going to play out. Like on one end, killing Soleimani seems to be pretty important. This guy represented, he was like a kingpin of like Middle Eastern politics. He was largely influential in the spread of the Quds Force and of Iranian influence throughout Syria, Iraq, Lebanon. So, I mean, seems like he's a high value target to the United States, and that killing him is definitely like a positive for U.S. interests. I don't know if killing him in an Iraqi airport without them knowing about it was the best way to do it. I don't know if that threatens our relationship with Iraq quite a bit. And I don't know if it causes an escalation in terms of how things will play out, if that will take us down a road towards, like more attacks from either side. Things seem to be going back and forth right now, but uh, yeah, I don't know. I think I very cautiously lean towards it being an okay thing, but I mean, I could be swayed either way. I think I'm kind of indifferent to it at the moment. I think that killing somebody like that off of like Iraqi soil would have been fine, but doing it in an Iraqi airport, oof, is pretty. Yeah, I don't know.
Do you think it would have been more appropriate if it was done in Iran?
Um, Possibly, yeah. I mean, I don't know if we have like military. I don't know the legality. I don't think we have military like jurisdiction to be like launching operations in Iran right now. So I don't know how that would have gone either. But just the idea of like doing it behind a kind of sort of ally, like we already have like a tenuous relationship with Iraq, to do it in one of their airports and to kill one of their people as well, and then not tell them about it. That just seems like not good to me. Losing Iraq to like a Syria Iran coalition would be pretty scary for the U.S. I think for U.S. interests in that region.
Okay. So just for everyone in the chat, if you want to ask questions, right above this VC, there's a channel called Destiny Questions. Just post them in there. And if you want to invite some of your friends, the Discord invite link is just Blue Politics. So our next question comes from Storm. Storm asks, "Is capitalism a
Wait.
force?"
I'm sorry. Could I say something real quick?
Sure.
Oh, okay, because I see a lot of people saying this. So there are two stories right now that are being presented. One is that he was just there for peace talks. He was trying to broker peace with Saudi Arabia. The other one is the U.S. saying he was literally in the final stages of planning an attack. I'm sure that the truth is somewhere between these two things. Like Iran has interests that are vast across that region, and the idea that Soleimani was just an ambassador of peace going somewhere to broker a peace deal is an incredibly fucking naive view of how Iran runs its foreign policy. That's an insanely naive view. Now, was he in the final stages of planning a murderous attack to murder Americans maximally across the region? Probably not. It probably isn't quite as bad as U.S. intel says. But this idea that Soleimani was just a merchant of peace that was going around trying to broker is incredibly naive. Yeah, no, I don't buy that at all. Sorry, okay, because I see a lot of people saying that he was just on a peace mission. I don't think I don't think so, but yeah, okay.
Okay, so before we go on to the next one, just a related follow-up. Do you generally trust in news that comes out of the U.S. government, like Defense Department, etc.?
It depends on the type of news, and it depends on where it's coming from, I guess, if that makes sense. That we would have to really get into like specifics, I guess. Like in terms of in terms of like our independent like defense people like doing investigations and whatnot, like if the FBI is in charge of an investigation, if the NSA is in charge of an investigation or something, or like these types of things. um Man, it really depends on the particular thing and like the circumstances behind the thing. You know, like some of these are ran in the dark with very little oversight from the president or from Congress. Some of these are ran with a fuck ton of oversight because all eyes are on them. So, for instance, things like the Mueller investigation or things related to this Ukrainian thing have tons of eyes, you know, partisan in both ways on them, all across Congress, all across different sectors of our government. Like, I would think that those findings are probably fairly accurate. You know, but projects that are launched, you know, with one organization that is like very particular in its interest or whatever, maybe not as much. It really depends though. But I think that blanket distrusting all intelligence agencies, I don't think that's a very intelligent way to view news coming out of like the US administration.
Okay, our next question, yeah, it comes from Storm. He wants to know if you think capitalism is a force for good.
Not really. I think capitalism is a really efficient way of allocating capital. That's it. It can be good, it can be bad, but that's it. I don't think capitalism is necessarily like driven to further good measures or bad measures. It just does what it does.
All right, our next question comes from Bird Lawyer. Related on that, are you here, Bird?
Yeah. So recently on a stream and in one of your YouTube videos, you said that communism was totally didn't matter in the modern day world. Do you still believe that? And I also have a follow up question after that.
I was being pretty hyperbolic, so I was talking to a friend. I'm sure that there are lots of areas of academia where you can study like Marx or whatever, and it's relevant. But if you're trying to like gain an understanding of like how economies work around the world, or just gain an understanding about like economic transactions in general, then yeah, I would say that like studying communism is a total waste of your time. It's not going to give you like any insight into anything.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I would say that communism has more to do with like social pressures and like social interactions. So yeah, I'd agree with you there.
Well, I don't know if I would agree with that. Most of the communists that I've talked to have been pretty one-dimensional when it comes to social pressures. I like, even though a lot of communists seem to not say this, I find that a lot of them seem to fall into like class reductionism very quickly, which is very frustrating to me. As somebody that I guess I'd consider myself intersectionalist or whatever. But like I've talked to a surprising number of people that say they're not class reductionists that will then in the next breath say things like, "Oh, all of racism comes from capitalism." It's like, oh, okay. So yeah, I don't know how I feel about that one. Well, I do know how I feel about that. I feel like that's a really dumb way of analyzing racism.
All right, so slight change here. What do you think is the best single player game of the last decade?
Oh fuck, dude. I don't know. I really liked The Witcher 3. So I would go with that, but the last decade, that's a long ass time. Yeah, I'd probably say The Witcher 3, I think.
Are you sure it beats all 7 editions of Skyrim?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not a big fan of those types of open world games. So.
All right, our next question comes from Jules. He asks, "What do you think of Antifa, and do you think leftist militancy against fascism can be justified?"
Um, if you're truly fighting a fascist, then yeah, I mean, I think that you can justify that pretty easily. I don't think Antifa has much of a presence in the United States, so I don't really have like a super strong opinion about them. I mean, anytime if you want to go out and like protest stuff, I'm always in favor of that. That's a pretty vague non-answer. I mean, like if you're truly protesting like the Trump administration, or if you're trying to claim that the Republican administration in the United States seems to be going on kind of a like a fascist bend, I mean, I would support those types of protests for sure. Yeah.
All right. Scottish Federalist asks, "Do you think the union between uh, England and Scotland will dissolve, and do you think it should?"
I doubt it would. I think the Scots have talked about it, especially because of their differences in their votes for Brexit. But I don't know enough regionally about those politics. I mean, it seems like some shit that they talk about, but I don't know if they would actually do that. That seems like a pretty significant reorganization of that like body of the United Kingdom. I guess it's possible, but yeah, I don't know.
All right. And what are your thoughts on race and sex-based affirmative action in public universities?
I mean, depending on how it's done, I don't think it's that big a deal. It can be done in a really negative way. It can be done in a pretty positive way, probably. Like if you have like people that are donating you money specifically for like certain minorities to get like certain programs in schools or whatever, like that's probably fine. If you're literally like canceling students from getting in from your larger body of students, like I don't know, most of the affirmative action programs that I've seen have like been it impacts like very very few students. They have like slots reserved for these things, and it's not like anywhere near as big a deal as people try to make them out to be.
All right. American Legend asks, how has streamer culture changed since you started streaming?
People used to be way, way, way more mean. But that's kind of true of the whole internet. The internet used to be a much darker place, but it seems like it's chilled out quite a bit. So,
All right. Uh, so you've debated the alt-right. Are you ever concerned that debating them might elevate them and draw attention to them?
sometimes if I'm debating an alt-righter, I try to be pretty responsible on my platform, and like I try to make sure that I'm providing like a good challenge or alternative to the ideas being presented. I try to do that as responsibly as possible. Not like like Joe Rogan, who'll just bring people on and let them talk and talk and talk and not really challenge anything they say.
Okay. Platonic Lefty asks, do you consider egoism as a case in favor of objective morality?
Not, I don't think so. No,
Okay.
but yeah.
Um, so in case anyone didn't understand the question, would you be comfortable unpacking that and kind of saying why you don't think so?
Sure. So egoism, I think, basically states that people just have some set of like preferences that they seek to fulfill, and that's kind of like my approach to like meta ethics. Instead of trying to say that like, oh, like this is what is goodness or whatever shit, I don't really waste time trying to think of that because I don't believe that like goodness can be reduced to some like actual moral fact of the world. So I just say people try to fulfill some set of preferences, which I think is kind of I think that's a I don't know if that specifically would be a form of anti-realism, but like I don't know. I have a hard time getting from there to like objective moral fact. I guess if you call preferences objective moral fact, you could, but that's not how most people talk about like objective moral fact.
All right. And so Dalcoy96 asks, which Democratic candidate do you align with the most?
I have no idea. I need to dig into their policies more, but I'm really unmotivated to do it when like they come up and go and come up and go. I don't want to waste time digging into somebody. I think that like I don't know. Somebody probably maybe somebody between like Warren and Pete. Maybe I'm not sure. I don't know if Pete has said anything that I don't like yet. But Pete's got like such a limited history. He's very young, and then the history that he does have is not that great. So
All right. So on that, a while back, he's since dropped out, but Beto O'Rourke actually advocated uh, restricting gun rights further and taking some away.
mhm.
What are your thoughts on that idea?
I mean, whatever works works. Like if gun buybacks or whatever work, I'd be in favor of it for reducing, gun violence. I think most Americans are in favor of like some form of more stringent background checks, getting rid of like loopholes that allow for private sales without government tracking. Like I'm in favor of those types of things. In terms of like making firearms just wholesale illegal, I don't know how effective that would be in the United States when we already have more than like one firearm per person. I don't know if just like making more stringent gun laws, unless you literally do it on a federal level and ban like all of it seems really hard for any of that to be effective. So
All right. And Seafood wants to know where you, what do you think America's political climate would be in a century?
I have no idea. Flying around in spaceships or walking around with sticks, I guess.
Makes sense. All right. So Golden Sentinel asks, what are you most excited slash anticipating for in the new decade? Games, music, tech, etc.
There's a lot of games I'm looking forward to this year. Final Fantasy VII Remake, hell yes, I'll be playing it. It might be bad, but I'll be playing that. The next Doom game, I'm super looking forward to. Kerbal Space Program 2, I'm looking forward to. The next big patch for Terraria, I'm looking forward to. Yeah, and that's where I'm at right now with it.
Thoughts on Cyberpunk?
I'll play it. Yeah. The gameplay looks pretty boring, but I'll probably play it. It'll probably be interesting. I don't like things where you can Fallout 3 did something called VATS, where you like slow down time and like attack stuff. I really don't like stuff like that. I like more difficult games, but yeah, I'll probably play it.
All right. So back on the Democratic candidates, Yang has proposed universal basic income. Dylan wants to know what you think about UBI.
I haven't done enough research into it, to be honest. It just seems like one of those things that are like so impossible that I just haven't like looked into it much. Like I don't see us like heading to any type of UBI anytime soon. I think I've heard a little bit of like mixed back and forth on it, but I don't have a very strong opinion on it.
All right. Tripod asks, do you think the alt-right are currently growing?
I don't know. It feels like it when you look at the amount of attacks around the world, and then you look at like their online communities. But in terms of like actual numbers, I usually like to go by like polling data or some type of like more quantifiable thing rather than the qualitative feel. What does it feel like online? But it definitely feels like they're getting bigger. But that could just be because they're getting louder too. I don't know.
Okay. What are your thoughts on the hashtag #MeToo movement?
I'm generally, I think it started off like really good. I think it's gotten a little bit bastardized sometimes, but I mean, like, I think overall it was a positive impact to kind of let people know that, like, hey, like, there's a lot of rapey behavior that exists in some of these entertainment industries. It's probably good to bring attention to it. And yeah.
All right. So it's the internet. I have to ask this. Did Jeffrey Epstein kill himself?
Honestly, I think it's possible that he did. I think that everything lines up for him to have wanted to kill himself. Now, should he have ever been able to kill himself? Obviously not. It's entirely possible that he wanted to, and some outside force was like, "Yeah, let him do it. Like, get out of their guards or some shit." Like it's possible that he did. It's possible somebody else did it. I mean, everything. Like, I kind of like to go with like the simplest explanations. It seems possible that the guy wanted to kill himself, and that somebody on the outside was able to like pull away like any surveillance to let him do it. It's also possible somebody else killed him, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, either way, like, either way, it's like pretty insane that that happened. Like, clearly something went awry there, that we're probably never gonna know about.
Um, I don't know where this is coming from, but Urban Youth asks, what do you find appealing about an open relationship?
I like to fuck around a lot.
Okay. uh, Bird Lawyer asks, do you think you're irresponsible when you quote canceled Vosh? Would you be willing to talk to him on his stream, or if he gets unbanned on Twitch, your stream?
Yeah, I mean, I have no problem talking to him. I like talking to him. I don't think I ever canceled him. I don't cancel people. I never do that. There was an issue that came up between him and a couple people in my Discord. I think I banned him from my Discord, and I said, like in a few months or when the dust is settled, I'm probably okay. Like, I'm not big on like that, on that like permanently canceling people because we fucking hate like them forever and they're irredeemable. Like, I'm not that kind of person ever. So, I mean, like, he's not banned in my chat or anything. Like, he's been like kind of around my community for a while over the past like year, so
So
or
on that,
several months.
what are your general thoughts on BreadTube?
I don't like socialism, and I don't like socialists, and I don't like people that call themselves socialists or do any of that shit. So I don't give a fuck about it.
Uh, do you judge people according to their political views?
I mean, it depends on your political view, I guess, and then the type of judgment depends on what exactly our relationship is. Like, if you're an Uber driver and you're like a Nazi, I don't really care, I guess. But like, I probably wouldn't have a Nazi that's a friend. Um, yeah, I mean, like if I just play games with somebody, I'm probably not going to hardcore like go into their political views, or if it's something that I like hook up with occasionally, or if it's just like a casual acquaintance. Obviously, the closer the friend, probably the more likely we are to align on some key political beliefs. It's hard to imagine I'd be like really close friends with a big Trump supporter. So, yeah.
All right. Uh, American Legend asks, what is your favorite topic to discuss in debates?
I don't know. I'm pretty open to discussing anything. Philosophy's been interesting for a while. Foreign policy is really interesting to me, like the Middle East. Yeah, it really just depends. I'm pretty open to talk about almost anything, though. I don't know if I have like a favorite topic, I guess.
Okay. Are there any philosophers in particular you'd identify with?
I'm too lazy to read that shit. I think from all the stuff that it gets brought up, I think Hume is the guy that I probably match up the most with. So he seems like a cool dude. If I were to ever like pick up philosophy, but I bought a treatise on humanity, but I just haven't. Oh my god, that shit is so fucking dry to read. So fuck me.
I just gotta ask, have you read his piece on the color blue?
No, I have not. What's it about?
It's literally about the color blue. It's the whole piece on just the color blue.
Oh, okay.
It's
Well,
it's kind of weird, but I think you'd probably appreciate it. His general idea is just that if there are different shades of it, we
mhm.
couldn't know. If I remember this right, he
Interesting.
largely talks about it's with his empiricism, but also talks about the limits of it.
Okay.
Let's see. Next question. Oh, American Legend asks, are there any kind of questions you're hoping we would ask?
Not in particular. No, I usually just show up to these, and whatever happens, happens. Yeah.
All right. Um, what is your opinion on Israel and Palestine?
I don't know. It's a really broad question. I wish they'll find peace. Um, but yeah, but I don't know how or if or when that can possibly happen. But yeah.
Oh, what do you think is the biggest barrier to peace there?
I don't think I know enough about the region to really say. I mean, it sounds to me like one of those things where both sides are asking for like too many things that the other side isn't willing to like give on. But I mean, like, I don't know. I was going to do a dive into the history of that region. And like, it seemed like there have been times where Palestine was ready to come to the table and talk peace. And then Israel was like, nah, fuck you. And then there were times where Israel was ready to come to the table and talk peace. And Palestine was like, no, fuck you. So yeah, I don't know what the actual answer is.
All right. Lero asks, sorry, he asks, was there any debate you regret doing?
Not really. I mean, even on the ones that I quote unquote lose, I think that there's something that I learned from them. I did do a debate once where I did like a duo debate where it was me and one other person against Nick Fuentes and Sargon, and I kind of regret the way that that was approached. I don't think that doing that together was a good idea. I think it gave a lot more credence to the Fuentes side of things than I wanted it to.
I just actually I watched that recently. I was curious. I'm not sure how to phrase this without making it come out bad, but just whatever.
Mhm.
Of those people on the alt right there, which one did you dislike the most?
Well, so to be clear, Sargon is not an alt writer. Um, but in terms of who I dislike the most, that's a really hard one. I don't like Nick Fuentes because our politics like grossly misalign. But at least he's not an idiot. Sargon is so fucking mind-numbingly stupid. Holy shit. So I really don't like maybe this is my whatever speaking, but like I really value like intelligent people or people that can put together like coherent thoughts. And Sargon is not one of those people. I'm not even fully convinced Sargon can read. So yeah, I don't know, but it's really hard to pick which one I hate more. Like, I mean, probably Fuentes just on politics, but god damn, Sargon makes it really, really hard.
So you would actually consider Nick Fuentes to be an intelligent person?
I think that he puts together things in a logically deductive manner, that all of his points flow from one to the other, like in a pretty good way. I mean, obviously, I disagree on a lot of his empirical claims, on the soundness of his conclusions, but at least he can put together a logically coherent argument. That counts. That counts as a lot for me when I debate people like Lauren Southern and all these people that like can't even fucking like stumble their way through a logically consistent statement.
All right. So we had some people join the chat. For everyone that's joined, we're talking with Destiny here. He's a Twitch streamer, and he identifies as a sock dem. Is that correct?
Yeah, we can go with that. If you're very far left, you might call me a neoliberal or corporatist show, though. So I don't know. It just depends on who I'm talking to.
And if you guys want to ask questions, write them in Destiny questions. It's a text channel just above this VC. If you want to ask it yourself, write VC at the beginning. If you want to invite some of your friends in here, the invite code is just Blue Politics in Discord. So our next question comes from Whiskey Renegade. He asked, do you think the American judicial system, particularly the Supreme Court, is politically biased?
Yeah, of course. I mean, like the politics of the particular jurors on the Supreme Court is pretty important to the to like the decisions they make, right?
So he also asks if you have any ideas on how to stop it from being that way, or are you okay with it being as it is?
I've heard a lot of different solutions on ways to go about the Supreme Court. That there should be more Supreme Court people nominated. That like I don't know what the solution is to fix it. It seems like it works okay as an institution or has. I mean, like everything. I don't know if you could ever create any system that removes all political bias from any particular thing. So.
Odessa asks, do you believe people operate from a standpoint of objective reason or subjective reason? And how do you think this applies to acquiring truth in political thought and ideology?
I think that most people are like really narratively driven. So like I don't think most people when they are like forming their political opinions are doing it like in a like this is the logical facts, blah blah blah. Like I think people draw a lot from personal experiences. People draw a lot from things that feel right because of what they've seen. And that stories can persuade people like pretty significantly. I would say that that's more important to most people than like having a logically consistent, validly deductive argument or whatever. That seems to be the case, at least.
Okay. This next one comes from Bird Lawyer. Would you call people like Ben Shapiro or Ben Shapiro or people like him a fascist or at least a fascist sympathizer?
I don't know if I would consider Ben Shapiro a fascist. He seems to be pretty big on like democracy stuff, and I think he's like pretty like anti-Trump. So, or at least that's my impression of him.
All right. So our next one comes from Mass. Mass, are you here right now?
I am here right now.
All right, go ahead.
All right. So, being a communist and seeing you debate with other self-proclaimed communists, you seem to be caught up on the question of violence and seizing the means of production as part of the communist program. I'm curious why you see like the violence of the oppressed is unjust and the violence of the surplus value extraction undertaken in imperialism is not being enough as a pretext for revolution.
I don't consider surplus value extraction to be a violent act.
What about the question of imperialism as being not enough as a pretext for?
Well, I mean, imperialism is bad, of course, but I don't think that has anything to do with communism or capitalism, no?
You don't think it has anything to do with capitalism?
No, of course not.
All right.
Well, I mean, like you could have, for instance, like you could have a form of like socialist or a communist economy that could still extract value from foreign lands in an imperialist manner.
Oh,
You could have
definitely.
a capitalist economy that doesn't rely on imperialistic ways of like getting more resources. Like, I mean, I think anybody could be imperialist or not imperialist. So.
All right. Our next question comes from Trevman. He asks, was imperialism ever justified?
That it doesn't seem to be the case. I'm sure there's. Wait, shit! Someone is knocking at my door. Hold on 1 second.
Yep. So just again, guys, I know there's been a lot of people flowing in and out. If you guys want to invite any of your friends on for this, it's discord.gg/bluepolitics. We do these kind of AMAs once or twice a weekend. We've actually got another one tomorrow and 2 booked for next weekend. We'll be announcing the 2 next weekend on Sunday. And oh yes, I'm sorry. If you've just joined us, you can post questions that you would like to hear asked. Like to hear asked and answered in the Destiny questions chat just above the VC.
All right, sorry, I'm back.
No worries. So in that time, were you able to think of any imperialism that was justified?
Not off the top of my head. I guess it depends on how you define imperialism. Like, is this like all foreign intrusion, or is this just like occupying like foreign lands and taking them over? But it's probably not a good thing. I don't think, like from a moral point of view. I'm sure some self-interested nation can do it to like further themselves, but it seems like it fucks over native populations like really hardcore.
All right. Jules Myvern asks, "Are you a free speech absolutist?"
No, fuck no.
All right. Okay, I think we might have touched a bit on this, but it's a slightly different one. So, Mr. Aries asks, "Why do you think the conflict in the Middle East is not ending? What's the root cause of this problem, in your opinion?"
I mean, it seems like a lot of the conflict in the Middle East is driven by foreign actors that are trying to use those countries to gain leverage over other foreign actors. That seems to be the case. So, like, the United States has an allegiance kind of to Israel or Saudi Arabia and the Gulf states because we want to fuck with people like Syria or Iran that have like an allegiance to kind of like Russian interests or anti-US interests. So I mean, as long as those foreign powers, so until either somebody wins, like until like Syria and Iran are flipped to be the US allies, or until everyone in the region is flipped to be like a Russian ally, it seems like those conflicts are probably not going to end.
All right. And Java Bolt asks, "Why do you think the left hasn't been as successful as the right regarding the spread of ideologies?"
I don't know. The left sucks at talking to people that disagree with them. That's my general impression.
Do you think it has been less successful in spreading ideology?
I mean, considering that Trump is president and that seemed literally unfathomable in 2015, I would say that they've been less successful. Yeah.
Okay. So, like, how would you characterize Trump? Do you think he is a far right candidate
Mm,
or president, rather?
yeah, I'd say he's a far right populist. Yeah.
Okay. Next question comes from the NSA. Do you think America looks more towards quarterly profits than the future of the country?
Do you think what? Wait, well, who looks more towards quarterly profits in the country? Who?
America.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, it seems like we're very hyper focused sometimes on our economy sometimes, and we put that priority over like everything else, which is probably not good. Like the health of our communities or the ability of people to like make friends or the lives of our families or whatever. Yeah, it's probably not. It's not a good thing. I don't think.
Let's see. Tripod asks, "Do you think it's possible that the USA could lose global hegemony to China in the next few decades?"
It's possible, yeah, for sure. Or Russia, yeah, especially under this type of leadership. Yeah.
Do you think it's likely?
It's really going to depend. I'm very curious how things will turn out after this next election cycle. I feel like when the world gets scared, everybody looks inward, and that causes you to cede power to other countries that are smart enough to look outward. And China is very good at looking outward and being forward thinking. And a lot of Western countries just get scared and they want to lock up. So, like the UK leaving the EU, the United States withdrawing from trade agreements or negotiations or from other allies. Like, I think that these types of behaviors are really negative for the West and really positive for China.
Platonic Lefty asks, "Do you think legislative action is ever appropriate for taking action on lessening harmful social issues in regards to society's treatment of marginalized groups?"
Like, what?
Uh,
Like, if we're talking legislative actions related to like affirmative action, yeah. If you're talking about legislative actions like walking in and like kicking white people out of houses, so like probably not. I mean, that's a really yeah. But I mean, like things like protected classes and like protections for people not being discriminated against either at workplaces or in buying property is probably really important, and that's like a government thing.
okay. So just for everyone here that's writing questions, it's the Destiny questions chat. Please try to keep the questions to 1 or 2 sentences. I don't want to read out paragraphs. So, Gum asks, "Do you think military people are overglorified in today's culture as far as the U.S. military?"
I think it's probably at an appropriate level. People on the right probably do it too much. People on the left feel like a little bit too little sometimes. Maybe I don't know. I don't really give a fuck. I don't care about veterans. I mean, like, if you really want to talk about veterans, we should talk about like the status of like the VA and shit, and what we do for all the people coming back that are killing themselves at rates that are like 5 times normal population and shit. I think those are like how we show how we, if we care about veterans. It's one thing for Republicans to suck off, veterans and emergency services over and over and over again. But like when Republicans are blocking, getting like healthcare to like the firefighters that were on ground zero for 9/11, like that's the stuff that I'm more interested in rather than like is IHOP giving enough discounts to fucking military veterans?
Okay. So you just mentioned the VA and healthcare for veterans. What do you think would be the ideal solution to that issue? Should they? I just know the two most common things are, increasing the VA's funding and building new VA hospitals, or on the other hand,
Wait, hold on.
I'm
sorry. What did
go
you say? Okay, cool. Thank you. Sorry, there's like a guy replacing our garbage disposal. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
So, yeah, as far as I know, the two most common proposals for addressing the VA's issues are building more VA hospitals and more government funding, and on the other end, it's giving veterans basically access cards, I think they call them, so that they can basically get healthcare anywhere from a private, service. Which would you lean towards?
I'm not sure. Man, I don't know. I haven't done the research. So I don't know which works better. I mean, this is a cop-out answer, but whichever one works better is what I'd be in favor of. If giving them access to private care or whatever via cards is something that would help them, then I'd be in favor of that. But yeah.
Okay. Next question comes from Jules. Do you think the Espionage Act should be abolished?
I don't even. Is the Espionage Act the thing that you use to charge people with espionage?
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't have a strong opinion on it. I haven't read into that at all, so I have no fucking idea.
Okay. Have you seen the Witcher series? And if so, what are your thoughts on it?
I've only seen the first episode. I wasn't very impressed. The writing seemed like pretty cringe, but I heard that it gets like pretty good. I've heard a lot of like good things. So yeah. I don't have a strong opinion on it right now. Maybe if I see the rest of it, if I get around to watching the rest of it, then I will.
Okay. What are your thoughts on abortion rights?
I'm like pro-abortion. I think women should have the right to get an abortion if they deem fit. Yeah.
Okay, let me see. Scroll through here. Let's see. Sorry, a little later. Dre asks, do you think in times of national emergency there should be rent control?
No.
Okay.
Wait, are those two things supposed to be connected? Am I missing something?
I'm not sure how those are connected.
Okay, sorry. Maybe I just don't
relaying
understand.
some questions. So.
Okay.
Should the drinking age be lowered?
To 18, it probably should be. I mean, that would bring it more in line with more European countries, where sometimes it's even lower. Yeah.
Okay. And on the other hand, if I remember this right, the federal government just raised the smoking age to 21.
I heard that. I haven't looked into that though. Is that actually like really like a federal law, like on the books? Like,
I'm pretty sure it is. Like
if that's true, that's very interesting to me.
do you think that's a good idea?
I don't know, man. The age of majority is supposed to be 18. At 18, you're supposed to be able to make decisions about these things. You could sign contracts and whatnot. Like, it seems like you should be able to decide to smoke if you want to.
What are your thoughts on Trump impeachment?
The Ukraine shit is really bad. I thought the obstruction of justice stuff for Mueller was really bad too, though. So I don't know. Fuck Trump. If he gets impeached, I think he's more than deserved it at this point. But it's not something that I think that you should like count a lot on. Like you should still try to run a campaign. Like your goal should be to win in the ballot office, not in a courtroom against somebody like Trump. I think the ballot office. I get the ballot. I mean,
yeah. Is anthropogenic climate change real? And if so, what do you think is the best way to address it?
I mean, it seems to be the case that it's real. Yeah. The best way to address it, I mean, like this is a very like you need to get multiple countries together to all pass resolutions, holding each other accountable that do a combination of incentivizing more research into green energy, doing greater utilization of the green energy that already exists, and probably cutting like the aggregate energy usage of all of these countries as well. Like this would be like the most monumental This would be like Independence Day when they all launched the planes against the UFO. It would be like on that scale of like needing so much cooperation between countries to get it done.
All right. Roar10 asks, where do you think video games will go in the next decade? Do you think VR will take us into a near total immersion Matrix kind of experience?
It's possible. I don't have much hope for VR yet. I think maybe that that VR game, the Alexis one or whatever, that might be a really important game to see like if VR really needs like that one app, that one program, that one game that gets like everybody downloading it and using it. We just haven't seen that yet with VR, I think.
All right.
Wait, Alex, not Alexis. I'm sorry. Fuck. Fuck Half-Life. I don't like Half-Life. I never liked Half-Life. I don't give a fuck about the game. But sorry, yeah, the Alex bullshit or whatever. Yeah.
Odessa asks, you describe yourself as a social democrat. Does that mean you subscribe to the Scandinavian model?
In regards to which policies, like in terms of like like having more social health care, and having greater like safety nets for your society and everything, then yeah, probably, yeah. But in aspects of like things like rent control, probably not.
All right. The NSA asks, can senators be relied upon to have a fair impeachment trial?
Can senators be well, impeachment trials seem to me like they'll always be like pretty fucking partisan unless the evidence is incredibly damning. So I mean, I don't know. It's a political thing.
So just a preliminary question to one of these questions. Do you believe in aliens?
No.
Do you okay. Do you believe that police unions should exist?
Probably, yeah. The collective bargaining is probably a good thing in general, yeah.
Okay, and Mad Tips asks, is it possible to be anti-police union while still being pro-union?
Yeah, of course. I mean, like you can be like and yeah. Yeah, of course. Yeah. You could be anti-police union because you don't like police, but you still like unions, of course, sure.
Trevman asks, should term limits be put in place for congressmen and congresswomen?
I think so. I've heard arguments for why they shouldn't be, but I don't know. I think that term limits should be there for sure. Yeah.
What do you think the chances are of the Democrats beating Trump in 2020?
I think it's fucking 50-50 right now. I think anything could happen.
Okay. Whiskey Renegade asks, should America be cutting military spending?
I mean, if it was putting that money towards other things, maybe. I don't know what an America cutting foreign like military spending. I don't know what that looks like. What does that mean? Like, what is our new place in the world? Like, what are we cutting that spending? Like, in what ways? Like, what exactly are we cutting? I don't know. It would depend on what that looks like.
Okay. Iron asks, do you think the existence of billionaires represents a failure with the way our society is set up?
No, I don't think there's anything wrong with the existence of billionaires. I do think there's something wrong when we have homeless people in our country. I think that's fucking insane. Those homeless people are incredibly fucking lazy. No, I'm just kidding. That like I think that like the I don't care how rich people get if they're really fucking rich. That's fine to me. I don't think we should ever demonize that success. But like when there are people starving and shit, and we don't have houses, or we can't get like homeless people into houses and stuff. Like I think that represents like some pretty big moral failings on us to dictate good government policy.
Iron also wants to know, do you think it's possible to be moral and a multi-billionaire?
Of course.
Sergeant Jellybelly wants to know what your position is on normalizing relations with Cuba.
I think it's incredibly positive. I think normalizing relationships with any country is like a really positive thing. I think that one of the biggest failings of the Trump administration was ripping up the Iranian nuclear deal, and I thought that was one of the greatest successes of the Obama administration. So,
So a few people are asking, what are your thoughts on people using the N-word and cancel culture regarding that, such as, Papa John's and whatnot.
We gotta do it. This is a big meme on my stream. I think as a public figure, I think you should be really careful about the types of jokes you tell, and the types of humor that you engage in. And I think you should try to be as aware as possible of the impact that might have on people, um, especially other people listening. But in terms of like in your personal life, what you do, I don't really care as much. I mean, don't be racist.
Waffle Boy asks, why do you not like Half-Life? What the hell is wrong with you?
I just never really got into it much. Some people really, really liked Half-Life, and I just never really cared too much.
Waffle Boy also wants to know, why don't you believe in aliens?
They may or may not be out there. I don't know. It's just something I don't think about. Like, we haven't really seen any evidence for them at all so far, which seems pretty strange given like how much we have out in space. Like, it seems pretty weird that we haven't picked up like any errant like radio waves or any type of like notification or like evidence of anybody broadcasting anything anywhere. Like, it seems to be the case, in my uneducated opinion, that if aliens are real, they either don't exist yet because they haven't had time to develop, or they already existed and went extinct, or maybe there might be some great event that makes it really unlikely for civilizations like ours to develop that's prevented other civilizations from existing. So yeah, I don't know. That's just seems to be the case from my point of view.
Jules wants to know, what is your beef with Hassan? And Jules wants to know if you can explain it in 5 words.
In 5 words, I think I have intellectual integrity.
Oh. Okay.
Wait. Oh, I think I have intellectual integrity. There you go. Fuck. Okay.
Wait, was that a kind of?
I did 6 words originally. There, now I have 5. The big difference between me and Hassan is that like it feels to me like a lot of people on his side are very ideologically driven, and don't really care like where the facts lead you or whatever. Like, it's just whatever feels the best in terms of policy is what ends up being the policy rather than like what actually works. Yeah.
So I don't know what's going up here with this, but the user Jesse asks, do you like black people?
Yeah, that's a meme from my Jesse Lee Peterson debate. But yeah, I would say I like black people, sure.
So I don't know how I missed this, but have you had a talk with JLP, Jordan Lee Peterson?
Oh, not Jordan Peterson, Jesse Lee Peterson, yeah.
Oh, okay. So Bird Lawyer asks, do you think your talk with him was negative, and would you change anything about the interview?
It was pretty memey. I mean, I went in expecting it to be memes, and it was memes. So I don't know. It is what I thought it would be. Whatever.
So on that, what are your thoughts on Jordan Peterson?
I mean, Jordan Peterson basically has risen up and provided like a platform for like disenfranchised young white men, or young men in general, I guess, to feel like they have a voice or to feel like they have some guide that gives them purpose. I guess he serves as kind of like a new age, like religious leader to some of these people. I think he fills an important gap in terms of messaging to these people. I wish that he would never talk about politics or philosophy, and just stick to his like realm of like self improvement. But yeah, I don't know. Overall, I mean, he fills a void that is pretty necessary. But I wish that it wasn't him filling it.
Do you think Jordan Peterson is religious?
Yeah, he's Christian, isn't he? He's very Christian, I think.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think he is.
I've heard that he is, and then that he just uses it as a metaphor because it speaks to most people.
No, I think I'm pretty sure he's religious. It's everything I've heard. Yeah.
Golden Sentinel asks, where do you want to take your career on Twitch or even beyond Twitch?
I don't know. Just keep doing what I'm doing. I want to get more seriously involved in politics. There's like a podcast that I'm trying to launch that I need to get off the ground. But yeah, like a more formal approach, a more serious approach to politics, so that I can start hammering some of these YouTube guys.
So I'm not sure how this connects, but I'll just read off whatever this user wrote. Snappy says, Jordan Peterson has called Nazism an atheist doctrine. Do you believe nihilism that often accompanies atheism will eventually lead us down a path of destruction?
I mean, anything could lead you down a path of destruction. I don't know if I buy into the idea that Nazism was like an atheist doctrine. That seems pretty extreme to me. But I don't know. I mean, like, loss of religion is really bad for a lot of people if they can't find anything to replace it with. And it seems like we were very quick at getting religion like out of society without like developing a replacement for it. So, I mean, yeah, it's possible it could, I guess.
All right. Gum asks, if you could punch one person in the face without any repercussions, who would it be?
I don't know. Probably Trump, I guess.
All right, let's see. I think this one's already been addressed. Brad says, you said before that one of your problems with workplace democracy is that white workers could discriminate against blacks or other minorities.
Mhm.
Isn't this just an argument against democracy in general and not just workplace democracy?
Yeah, of course, it could be for sure. I mean, for a long time in our Democratic Union, like we did discriminate against black people, right, and women. Yeah.
Bab DF asks, what's your plan to debate more people on the right, such as Steven Crowder?
What's my opinion about? Wait, say that again.
They're asking about if you have any plans to debate
Oh,
more people on the right.
yeah, I'd love to, but the problem is I'm at a point right now where the people that I want to debate are usually avoiding me. So like I almost have had stuff set up with Stefan Molyneux twice, but when he finds out it's me, he'll avoid me. Steven Crowder won't debate anybody because he knows that he's a coward. Paul Joseph Watson or whatever, that guy like won't debate anybody because he knows the problem is like the next tier of like conservative people typically avoid that type of conversation because they know that they're ill-equipped for it. So I don't know how I would goad some of these people into a conversation. I'm not sure.
Okay. Just curious because we actually have been trying to set up AMAs and debates with some people. Would you be fairly open to discussing a certain topic if we set up a debate with someone like that?
Yeah, of course. You just let me know ahead of time who it is. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Java Bolt asks, do you think Neighborhood Watch can be a viable alternative to policing in communities where trust in police is low?
It could be, or it could also be incredibly negative. I don't know how I feel about those. Like very local community things can either be really positive or really bad. Yeah, it just depends. I haven't seen like a lot of data on like how those tend to play out, so I could be persuaded either way on that.
All right. Whiskey Renegade asks, what is the thing you dislike most about Bernie Sanders?
Probably his policies.
Are there any particular ones?
The nationwide rent control is horrible. That Green New Deal federal jobs guarantee, I'm not too thrilled about. The very aggressive Medicare for all he's pushing that bans all private insurance, I'm not very happy with. 15 an hour minimum wage across the country that's not pegged on any kind of like local inflation seems pretty dumb to me. Yeah.
Okay. So we've got a mock government we do week to week on this server, just for fun.
Mhm.
One of the issues we were discussing this week was cloning. Do you think that should be allowed?
Oh wait, cloning or like genetic modifications of people in general? Like,
Cloning.
for what purpose?
Any at all? Is there any that you think should be legal?
I mean, if you could like clone like people's some parts of their bodies as like duplicate organs or something, I mean, that's probably pretty chill, right?
Oh, I mean, so I'm sorry. I was referring to cloning like a copy of the whole person.
Oh man, I don't know. There's a lot of implications there. And what, just having them be like their own like free person, or like these people would be like enslaved as clones to like some other part of society, or what do you mean?
Well, I assume being their own free person. I assume they'd have all the normal rights.
I mean, I guess I don't know what would be the purpose of it.
I mean, like people get plenty of different ideas. Some think it would be a good way to stack society with, desirable people. So if we've got, I don't know, Albert Einstein or what's his name, black science guy, Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Mhm.
If we had 20 of him, people are saying, hey, maybe that would be a great thing.
It sounds a little eugenicsy to me. I mean, no.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah. It seems like there'd be I need to think about that in much greater detail. It sounds like there'd be a lot of potential problems with that. Like if we start pumping out like a whole bunch of a certain kind of person, does like every other kind of person that doesn't match that become like an undesirable? Like yeah, I don't know. That seems pretty spooky to me.
Okay. Doge Cats asks, have you considered running for political office?
Fuck no. I've got too much of my background that would probably make that impossible. And then it doesn't pay as well as what I do now. So fuck that.
Okay. Bear with me on this one. Bear with me on this one. Roriton asks, who are you, like, deep down?
I'm a guy that plays video games. I like to argue with people. I really like music. That's about it. Not too complicated.
Fox Terrier asks, what's your opinion on the current U.S. markets? Are they free or too authoritarian?
I think our markets are pretty open in the US. Maybe there's some stuff that is regulated that doesn't need to be as much. Maybe there's some stuff that needs more regulation, like our healthcare markets. Yeah, I mean, I'd say our markets are pretty free in the US.
All right. Karina asks, what do you think the solution is to cartels in Mexico affecting the U.S.?
I don't know as much about like a comprehensive like plan of action for that. Some sort of like formal union with the US to work on that seems like it would be positive, maybe. I don't know if that would threaten Mexico's autonomy too much though in terms of dealing with problems. So yeah, I don't know what the best solution is to that.
Okay.
The war on drugs in the United States should probably be fucking canceled. That'd be one thing. That's something I'm really big on. There's so much bad outcomes from the war on drugs in the U.S. So that'd be my first start on a lot of different things is getting rid of that atrocious fucking war on drugs.
So do you think it should be canceled or scaled back?
Cancel everything about the war on drugs is just beyond fucking stupid. The way that we stigmatize drug use, the way that we punish drug use, like everything about it is just really stupid.
So what about drugs that are associated with violence? Like I think it's bath salts. For some reason, I always hear it pronounced bat salts.
I think all drugs should be legalized, and then we should work from there. I don't know. Like, if you do violent actions against somebody, then you punish somebody for it. But it's the goddamn United States of America. If you want to take some crazy fucking drugs, that's your God-given American right to do it.
So would you extend this? Like, just trying to make sure we get clear on this. Like, do you mean everything? Like, if people want to use, steroids at their own use, or human growth hormones, or
Yeah, sure.
Ritalin, whatever?
I think that yeah. I mean, I don't see it like if we legalize heroin, I don't see like everybody running out to just like start doing heroin. So yeah, I mean, yeah, fuck it. I think legalize it and see what happens.
Okay. Wavy asks, would you kill a puppy for $1 million?
Yeah, of course.
Sergeant Jellybelly wants to know, what is your favorite nonfiction book?
My favorite nonfiction book? Fuck me. I don't know. My favorite nonfiction book. I don't read many books. I just recently read a book called Behind the Backlash. That's like the most recent one I've read that's interesting. I think of like the very little reading I've done. I think I usually read more fiction than nonfiction. Bertrand Russell's like Problems of Philosophy is an interesting like intro to philosophy book if you've never thought about anything like that before. Yeah, I don't know. I would go with those two. I read Guns, Germs, and Steel a long time ago, but I'm not 100% sure how like the academic community feels about that book, so I'm hesitant to recommend it.
What are your thoughts on Star Wars and the Disneyfication of it?
I don't care that much about Star Wars. I mean, I think that like the last 3 movies and the prequel 3 movies were all pretty bad, but it doesn't keep me up at night.
Thoughts. So Lero asks, thoughts about prostitution. Do you find it moral and should it be legalized?
I don't have no problem with sex work from a moral point of view. I'm kind of back and forth on like the legalization of it because I've read a lot of things where a lot of negative stuff happens when you do legalize it in terms of like sex trade. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I cautiously say that it probably should be legal, but we should obviously watch for the negative impacts of it pretty heavily.
All right. Let's see. Saint asks, what, in your opinion, does the Democratic candidate absolutely have to do to have the best chance of beating Trump in November?
Appeal to a wide variety of voters, I think, is really important.
Would you say more on that?
Appeal. Could I say more on it?
I mean, yeah, I
Yeah,
assume
like being like too extreme left, being too extreme of moderate. Like yeah, I think these are probably bad things. Like being able to appeal to an average American voter is probably really important.
Gotcha. You mentioned before it sounded like you. I mean, you said you're not sure, who would be your favorite candidate, but it sounded like you were leaning towards Pete Buttigieg. Is that right?
Hi guys, Peter Warren. I don't know. I'm not like huge on any candidate right now. I just haven't done the background homework yet on their policies, so it's hard for me to say.
Do you think America is ready for a gay president?
Probably not, but we'd probably be more okay with a gay president before a woman. So
Okay. All right. So you probably had this one before, but Iron asks if we recognize that animals can experience suffering and also that reduction of suffering is generally good. And if in modern society we can comfortably live without the use of animal products, then how can you justify not being vegan without claiming that your sensual pleasure is worth more than animal life?
I'd reject the premise that the reduction of all suffering is a good.
Right. Do you have any general thoughts on vegans and veganism?
No, I don't really give a fuck about animals. They can't do shit to me if I eat them, so fuck them.
Have you heard the name the trait argument?
Yep.
What are your thoughts on that argument?
I think it's pretty effective at doing what it does.
Okay.
But I wholesale reject like caring about animals because I don't think they can do anything to humans if we eat them. So I'll eat animals because I don't care. I don't think that the reduction of suffering of all sentient life, I don't think that's a compelling argument. There's no reason to advocate for that position.
Okay. American Legend asks, for the people unfamiliar with you, can you explain what omniliberalism is and what it aims to accomplish?
So omniliberalism is a fucking joke name that I came up with. I don't know if some people take this seriously or not. But basically, like I like the idea of I'm like a social democrat. I was like SOCDEM, but it seems like sometimes a lot of SOCDEMs bend a little bit too far to the left, or just outright reject like empirical analysis of like certain like economic safety or like certain like welfare safety nets. So like a lot of SOCDEMs will be like super pro like rent control, and I think that's really dumb. So I joke sometimes like, oh, I'm an omniliberal, like yeah, but it's like that was like a joke meme. I don't know if people take that seriously or not. Like I would say I'm probably a SOCDEM.
All right. Jules asks, since you don't like taking hypotheticals, utopian world look like?
Since I don't like taking hypotheticals, what does a utopian world look like?
That's the question Jules wrote.
I mean, a utopian world is probably one where everybody's like basic needs are met, where people can pursue like different types of work and do things that make them happy. And yeah, I guess, yeah. Like where your whole hierarchy of needs are all met and people are free to like do things and not spend all day working and suffering for, like just to survive. The goodest of all worlds. Yeah.
Okay. Expression asks, two questions here. If you were president, how would you deal with North Korea? And do you think reunification of the Korean Peninsula is possible?
Fuck, why are me asked to solve foreign affairs? Holy shit. I don't know what the correct way to deal with North Korea is. I don't know enough about that region, like about how China interacts with North Korea to know like what's like an appropriate response. I know that like humoring their leader, and like bringing him to the White House to take pictures and shit is probably not a good route to go. Is reunification possible? I don't know. A lot of South Koreans seem to just not like North Koreans. Like they don't like North Korea, or if you're a North Korean and you're in South Korea, like people like bully you and they don't like you. I don't even know if South Korea wants a reunification. Like that would be a pretty big, a monumental project for that country to take on. So, yeah, I don't know.
What are your thoughts on taking
Wait, hold on. I'm
down-
sorry. Wait, let me qualify that real quick, okay? Because
Okay.
people are apparently mad. So my understanding was that South Koreans would be like super hyped to like reunify with like their North Korean people and like all of that would be super cool. But I've spoken to a few South Koreans that live in South Korea and I asked them that. I was like, oh yeah, like when you guys see like a because I asked a person, when you hear a person speak, can you tell if they're from North Korea? And South Koreans typically tell me, yeah, you can usually tell. But they usually tell me that like North Koreans are like ostracized from like something, like people aren't like super happy or helpful towards these people, that they kind of like don't give a fuck about them. Like that, which surprised me. Maybe the few South Koreans that I talked to are assholes or whatever. But the South Koreans that I talked to made it sound like North Koreans are kind of treated like a little bit shittily in South Korea. But I could be wrong. That's a very personal thing that I was told by a couple. It might not be true. So yeah, okay.
What are your thoughts on the removal of Confederate statues?
It's probably good. Fuck it. Get rid of that shit. I don't give a fuck. People use them as like worshipping sites for like the Confederacy, which is kind of like fuck all that shit. Yeah, you can remove them. I don't care.
So I know there's actually a split among the civil rights community about this, and one of the things that a lot of people say is that it's a reminder of where we've been, and then we should keep it there. What do you think about that argument?
I don't know. It seems like a lot of the people that worship that shit are more just like, are more just like obsessed with having their like reminders of how great the Confederacy was, and they become like these kind of like racist symbols. But
Do you think fascism and or Nazism is on the rise in America?
like my earlier answer, I would say that seems to be the case. If we go by like number of extremist attacks and everything, in terms of like the actual like populations of these people, are they rising? I don't know 100%, but it feels that way.
Jelly Bellies asks, would you rather get drafted or go to jail?
Go to jail. I don't want to fight for this country in some bullshit ass war. Fuck that.
Let's see. The donkey asks, what is the lowest you would take to kill a puppy with your bare hands?
With my bare hands, I do it for 100,000, sure. Lower than that, I don't know. I'd have to think about it, I guess.
Okay.
Sounds pretty fucking weird. I'm not sure.
Java Bolt asks, what are your thoughts regarding piracy in the music industry, and do you think it can be positive for artists?
Hey, hold on. Hi.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Cool. Yeah, no problem. Do you need anything? Do you need anything? Okay, cool. All right, sorry. Can it be positive? Yeah, I mean, the whole exposure meme or whatever probably does help some artists in terms of like getting their stuff recognized. It seems like the people that make the most money off of like record sales are like labels anyway. So yeah.
I think we sort of touched this, but a user's asking, are you a fan of Peterson?
Am I a fan of Jordan Peterson? Not really, no. I think his self-help stuff is okay, but his politics and philosophy are really bad.
What are your thoughts on his have you read the 12 Rules for Life?
Fuck no. I watched a lot of his self-help videos, stuff that he posts on YouTube.
Okay. What are your thoughts on assisted suicide?
It's probably okay. People should be allowed to make that choice for themselves if they want to. I think it's pretty wrong for us to stand between people that feel like it's time to make that decision.
Okay. Are you familiar with anarcho-capitalism, and if so, what are your thoughts on it?
It's basically anarcho anything they think is dumb as fuck, and it's just a bunch of white people on the internet that jerk themselves off over their esoteric political beliefs that nobody in the real world takes seriously and that have no chance of ever coming to fruition.
If we were in a simulation like in the Matrix, would there be any way to know it?
No.
Okay. This one answered. Are you a nihilist?
To some extent, I guess. I don't actually understand the difference between a lot of those things. Like I've heard people say that I'm a nihilist because I don't think it's objective meaning in life. I've heard people say that I'm an existentialist because I think that you can create meaning in life. I've heard people say that I'm an absurdist because I understand the absurdity of trying to find meaning, but that you should probably try and live your life and have fun anyway. I don't actually I don't spend time researching these positions. They seem interesting, but I just don't spend a lot of time on it. It's not something that of all the things I could like pay attention to, like this is not one of them.
The Philo Funk asks, do you think a person who calls themselves a radical can ever change their ideas from discussion?
I'm sure it's possible. It just depends on the type of discussion. Different rhetorical strategies work on different people depending on why they're radical. Sure.
So for you, when you engage these debates, usually there's two different ways people approach them. It's just fun, it's entertainment, and some people think they're trying to, come to the truth, and some people think they're trying to change other people's opinions. Do you lean towards a certain one of these ways of thinking?
Yeah, in the past, I was basically just trying to show how stupid some of the ideas were of some of the people that I was talking to. Going forward, I'm trying to be more constructive in my arguments, trying to build positive cases for people to agree with rather than just deconstructing, I guess, like debate adversaries.
All right. Would you ever try going vegan for a few days or a week?
I mean, for a few days, I'm sure I could do it. I try to like go out to vegan restaurants when I can. There are a couple around LA that I like, and then I drink Soylent sometimes. I'll replace like my breakfast usually with like Soylent, which is a vegan meal. So, yeah, I think that vegan diets. I think everybody should try vegan food, because it is pretty like it's pretty scary to be locked into the idea that like a meal without a meat is not a meal. Like that's a pretty like limiting thing. There's a lot of good vegan food out there too. So like I've had a lot of good like vegan pizza, vegan pasta, vegan cheeses, vegan mac and cheese for definitely different types of like mushroom dishes and bean dishes and stuff. Yeah. I haven't tried much of the substitute meat stuff yet. Like I think you can enjoy vegan food without having to pretend to be a meat. But I've heard that like the Impossible Burger and whatnot are pretty good as well.
All right. Our next question is from Fox Terrier. Fox, are you there?
Yep. I'm here. Hold on. Yeah, I'm there.
Go ahead with your question.
Okay, I'll ask the second question. Do you believe that the rights of the individual on the internet are slowly being eroded by large corporate entities and government-based institutions?
Government-based institutions, probably not as much. Larger corporate entities, probably. I mean, as corporations become larger and larger and like take over more of like the online like political discourse, and then have a control over which users can use that platform. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious you'd have to say that, yeah, these things are like having an impact on like our individual freedoms. Sure.
All right. Do you want me to ask the other question, Tim?
Sure.
Okay. Is politics in the Western world averagely more partisan or more divisive?
What's the difference between those two things?
Well, partisan is that people are more, you could say, patriotic in their political beliefs, but divisive is people are more divided. In that sense.
Is it more? I don't know how I would compare those two on like the same like paradigm. Like, I mean, I would argue that politics in the West seems to be very divided and very partisan, but it feels like those two things play into each other quite a bit.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. What are your thoughts on the gender pay gap.
I mean, it's good to analyze why the pay gap exists and then figure out how we can rectify pay gap problems.
Why do you think it exists?
That's a really complicated sociological question. It seems like women choose different careers than men do, and so the question is, why do women choose those careers? I mean, some of it is probably due to like biological differences between men and women. Maybe women gravitate towards some things, maybe men gravitate towards others. Some of it is certainly due to different types of cultural pressure that push women towards different types of jobs that men aren't pushed towards. Some of it, I'm sure, is due to like actual like discrimination that exists in academia or in certain like facilities or jobs. Like, I mean, I'm sure that's like a really multifaceted problem that has a lot of different explanations for why it exists.
All right. I can't say his username. Pixel something something asks, by saying you don't believe in aliens, do you mean the conspiracy theories or the existence of other living beings in the whole universe?
I don't really consider the existence of other living beings. It seems like if they're out there, they're either too far away for us to ever contact, or they're hiding from us and we'll never see them unless they decide to reveal themselves to us. So, I mean, I'm sure I mean, in the infiniteness of the universe out there somewhere, I'm sure there probably something exists, but it seems like it's out of the bounds of what we're ever capable of accessing.
BabDF asks, how would you deal with the loss of coal mining jobs if we cut fuel emissions or got out of fossil fuel entirely?
I don't know. I'm not really too concerned about saving jobs, though, when it comes to climate change. I think that's a bad route to take. Protecting fossil fuel jobs at the expense of having like a habitable planet seems like a pretty silly priority list.
Dude asks, do you still watch anime, and if so, what?
Thank you. Not at the moment, actually. I haven't had time to watch anything. I've just spent all my time streaming recently.
Let's see here. Josk asks, do you think implementation of Medicare for all would necessitate policies such as taxes on unhealthy food, drugs, and so on, as it would no longer be you taking care of the bill if you mess with your health?
I mean, other countries have Medicare for all, and they haven't had to like hardcore restrict the types of food that people eat. So, no, I don't believe so.
What are your thoughts on policies like New York's soda and sugar tax?
I think they're really positive. The UK has tried these, and has tried this and something similar, and they've had a lot of success with it. So, I'm a big fan of stuff like this.
George Katz asks, do you think Trump has left a bad scar on the Republican Party?
I don't know. We'll find out next election cycle. Well, actually not this one. If Trump loses this one, then we'll find out the next election cycle. It'll be interesting to see what the next tier of Republican candidates look like, to see if they're all going to be like these Trump sycophants or if they'll actually be like normal Republicans again, I guess. We'll see.
Oh, this is really specific. Rorton asks, have you read Federalist 10?
Which one is that? Probably not. I read through a couple of these for a Fuentes debate, but I don't remember which ones.
I could not tell you which one it is.
Okay, then no, probably not.
So now, for myself, I'm curious. Have you read any of the Anti-Federalist papers?
Nope.
Oh. I suggest reading those. The Federalist papers were integral in forming the Constitution, but the Anti-Federalist papers were integral in forming the Bill of Rights.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. Jules asks, are you a utilitarian?
Yeah.
Ark asks, Ark says, I hear people say that politics is more polarized today. Do you believe that politics is more polarized and partisan than in the past? And if so, why?
So my guess is it feels like politics is more polarized now because we have online communities that we can more easily separate ourselves into that do a really good job at radicalizing us, because there's large corporations that are making a lot of money like keeping you watching certain types of videos or keeping you viewing certain types of content.
Whiskey Renegade asks, "What is the place of AI in gaming? Should we all quit playing and just watch the AI once they can dominate the game?"
I mean, that doesn't sound very entertaining to me, so no.
Question mark asks, let's see here. Are sexual preferences based on race inherently racist? Why or why not?
I think generally they probably are. It's possible that you can just prefer the way that certain types of people look. I'm sure that's entirely possible, but it's more likely that when people are saying things like, "I would never date X race of person," then there's probably some racist thing that's playing into that.
Okay. Southwest asks, "Would you say the Industrial Revolution and its consequences have been a disaster for the human race?"
I mean, I guess that really depends on how you define progress. Like in terms of like technology, no. In terms of like how we relate to each other, maybe. In terms of like the environment, definitely. Yeah.
What do you think is the best way of measuring if the common person's lot in life is improving?
What's the best way of Oh, I don't know if there's like I don't know if there's one single metric that you would look at for that. Like it would probably be like a combination of like, are you able to have a family? Are you able to get married? What is your median income? More importantly, like what is what is the CPI, the consumer price index? Like, can you afford, like certain goods? You'd probably have to use, there'd probably other things you'd proxy for this that you would have to measure. I haven't thought about like what exactly those things would be though. What?
Doge Cats asks, "How much money would I have to pay so you would stop playing League?"
Listen, man, I like my League of Legends.
Jules asks, "What constitutes a good person, and are you a good person?"
Fuck, I don't know. That's high. I mean, like, I would say, like, in my definition, a good person is somebody that has like a consistent set of beliefs that they follow throughout their entire life. And I mean, I would say I'm relatively consistent, so I'm a relatively good person. But I mean, other people would use way different metrics for that. So
Let's see here. American Legend asks, "Would there be circumstances where if you got drafted, you'd be willing to fight? For example, if you were drafted to fight the Nazis in World War II, knowing the atrocities taking place, would you have gone?"
if I didn't have a kid, maybe sure. Or if it was like an invasion of like my country, I'd fight for that. Hell yeah.
All right. If you were moving to another state and family and friends, social connections weren't at issue, what state would you choose to move to?
I really like California and I really like Washington. Those are like my two favorite states. And then I like Texas and Florida because there are no taxes there. So
What do you like about California and Washington?
California because I know a ton of people here. There's a lot of opportunity here for me. California's a pretty beautiful state, and then Washington because I love the Pacific Northwest. I think it's like one of the most beautiful regions of the world I've ever been in.
Okay. Let's see. Jules asks, if you could choose a time frame and a country to live in, when and where would it be?
A time frame and probably today in the United States. I don't know. I really like. I really like. I mean, the access to technology that I have, the job that I'm working right now, I literally could never do at any other point in human history. I like the access that I have to the rest of the world, both physically through travel and then intellectually through like the internet, like that I can see and interact with. Like, yeah.
All right. So for those of you guys joining, coming in and out, we're having a Q&A with Destiny here. Right above this VC, you can post questions in Destiny questions chat. And if you want to invite your friends, it's discord.gg/bluepolitics. So our next question, let's see. Iron asks, do you think big tech companies are modern day monopolies that should be broken up by the government?
I feel like the tech companies got too large somehow. Disney's probably too like Google and Facebook like probably have too much control over like our online media. Disney's probably too large. Some of the ISPs should probably be broken down a little bit. Yeah.
So obviously there's a built-in question whether or not you think this even exists, but what are your thoughts on social media, Twitter, YouTube censoring the right?
What do I think about YouTube censoring the right? I mean, YouTube is allowed to. I mean, like, if the problem is that like, YouTube is Google is a for-profit company, and if conservative messages are costing you like advertisements and shit, then I mean, it's within their right, their purview even to like ban this type of content. So I mean, that's just the unfortunate reality of like the market-driven environment we live in. I mean, it sucks to not get a diversity of opinion, but that's, I mean, it is what it is.
So just to be clear, you support those companies maintaining the right to restrict who can say what on their platform?
I guess hesitantly I support it because the alternative is like saying that like certain companies should be like legally obligated to host content on their servers from people that they don't want to. Like that seems like not a good thing.
All right. Doge Cats asks, what literature has been most pivotal in affecting your beliefs?
What literature? Man, dude, I'm a wiki warrior, man. Reading books is a lot of memes. There's a book that I mentioned recently that's been like a pretty good read. But otherwise, yeah, I'm a wiki warrior. Okay, I'm an article news site reading kind of guy. Yeah.
All right. Daddy Nomad asks, how has fatherhood changed your perception of adulthood?
I don't think it's changed my perception a lot. Yeah, I don't know. I had a lot of thoughts about parenthood before becoming a parent, and I think most of those have stayed pretty consistent. Like, yeah, I mean, like, I have a big problem with the way a lot of people discipline their kids, but I mean, I thought a lot of those same things beforehand. Yeah, people that like mistreat and abuse their kids is a pretty big trigger for me, but I mean, that probably was beforehand too. So yeah, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. So not talking about, outright, like just beating, but just as a, disciplinary measure or whatever. What are your thoughts on parents spanking children?
Spanking seems to be really ineffective, so I'm not in favor of it. Most of the times when I see parents hitting their kids, usually it's the parents are acting like kids. They're just like very frustrated by their children, so they just like start wailing on them, which seems to be not good. That's probably not a good way to approach that kind of stuff.
Okay. I don't think we asked this yet. We might have. Condimenting us asks, can you list the top 5 political issues that are most important to you personally?
Healthcare is a big one right now. Immigration is a big one. Foreign policy, especially in regards to the Middle East, is a big one. I would say climate change is a really big one right now. I would say those 4 are probably my big ones. Healthcare, immigration, foreign policy, and climate change are like my big 4 right now. And then anything else. Oh, and then I guess maybe the war on drugs. We're gonna put that one just because I feel like it's such an easy slam dunk answer.
Ludwig asks, what are your thoughts on Reagan?
On rape?
Close. Reaganomics.
Oh, on Reaganomics. What the fuck does Reaganomics even refer to? I hear that as a thing sometimes. Is that like is that where the trickle down shit started?
It's a term for supply side economics. Basically, you reduce taxation for those producing goods is the idea.
Yeah, fuck that shit.
Okay. Bab asks, have you looked into the Bob Lazar story?
No, what happened to him?
I have no clue. Sorry.
Well, good luck for Bob Lazar.
I can extrapolate on that. He's one of the original Area 51 conspiracy theorists.
Why? What did he die or something to aliens, or what happened?
No, he's still alive, but he was the first one that came out and made Area 51 like put it on the map.
Wow.
So if you don't know, then it's then no, you have no opinion.
No. Okay.
All right. Mew asks, if you could give one piece of advice to someone who's about to turn 18, what would you tell them?
Try hard in school. Try hard in college. Life sucks a whole lot more when you suck shit in school, and you're not going to realize how much more it's going to suck until it's too late to not suck. So.
Not Karkin asks, once and for all, is Trainwrecks a sexist?
Fuck, man. He says some things that are pretty fucking hard to defend. He probably is a little bit, yeah.
All right. So you said a bit about this, but Philo Funk wants to know what your thoughts are on Joe Rogan's podcast.
I think Joe Rogan is a pretty cool dude. I feel like he's pretty irresponsible in the people that he platforms sometimes. Like, it feels to me like he brings on some people and he doesn't really challenge them adequately sometimes, which really bothers me.
Mm-hmm. So we have touched on this tangentially, but what are your thoughts on deplatforming and cancel culture?
I think cancel culture is stupid as fuck. I think deplatforming oftentimes is stupid as fuck. I mean, sometimes it could be positive, like in the case of like Milo Yiannopoulos, but I don't think people that do all that shit really give a fuck much about the issues. It feels like they're more just like hyped up to have like some people on the internet that they can shit on. That's what it feels like, at least.
The NSA wants to know, is astronomy important to study, and what's your sign?
I think astronomy is really important, probably because it gets us to space. I'm assuming he meant to say astrology because he's asking what my sign is. I'm a Sagittarius. I don't know how much that matters, but
Sorry, that's my fuck up. I threw that in for a joke, thinking it was astrology. So, let's see here. Sergeant Jelly Belly asks, thoughts on. I don't know if you're aware of this. I don't know what this term is, but infant industry argument for protectionism. Oh, I know what that is. Sorry.
The infant industry argument for protectionism. There's probably some validity to that like fledgling economies can protect certain industries so they have a chance to get off the ground. I don't know what industries need to be protected or what specific like economies should be looking to that type of protection. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's some legitimate argument there, sure.
Doge Cats asks, is Scientology a cult?
Yeah, almost certainly it seems to be, right? Is that like up for debate?
Yeah. Ark says, I was speaking with an acquaintance and they recently told me, actually, sorry, Ark, we're not going to do that one.
Wait, hold on, wait, well, now
sorry.
I'm really curious. What's it about?
It's Jewish banker bullshit, so.
Oh, fuck.
We're not doing that.
Okay.
Jules asks, should the UN have more power?
Should the UN have more power? I would like the United States, before it pursues things internationally, to have an international coalition behind them. I think that would be good. So in that sense, the UN having like a little bit more power, it feels like it would be a good thing as well. So I'll hesitantly say yeah, sure.
So I haven't really caught up with this. Someone's asking if you think the ban you recently received was unfair. I'm not sure if it's in relation to you or Vosh.
I recently got a 24-hour ban because there's a nude thumbnail on my stream for a few seconds. So that's whatever. I banned for 24 hours. It's stupid, but.
All right, let's see. What are your thoughts on the Equality Act?
What does the Equality Act do again?
I am not sure if one of the mods knows. Just speak up, but I'm pretty sure it's the proposal that people have to be, well, workers have to be paid the same. So, like, if an employer has, men and women working for them, they have to have equal pay.
It sounds kind of stupid, but I don't know. Discrimination on wages based on gender is dumb, but like if you hire like a few women or a few men and they happen to be better than the other women or men there, or more apt for the job. It seems kind of weird that you would force them all to get the same pay, I guess. So, but I don't know. I don't know how it plays out like in the real world. Maybe they have like provisions that make it so that's not exactly how that works. So I'm not sure.
Doge Cats wants to know what your opinion is on the legality of porn.
I think porn should be legal. I think it's fine.
Do you know who Mr. Mouton is?
Yeah, it's one of my friends.
Okay. Not Bullet Train asks, is Mr. Mouton your best friend?
He's a pretty close friend. Yeah.
All right, let's see here. Pixel wants to know what your thoughts are on furries.
I don't think I have strong thoughts on furries. People are. I'm not a furry myself, but if people want to like enjoy furrydom, like that's on them. Then knock themselves out, I guess.
All right. Iron says that less than half of the U.S. trust mass media, according to recent Gallup polls. How do you think mass distrust in news sources affects our democracy?
It's really bad when we start feeling like we can't trust the news. Then people turn to conspiracy shit online, which I think has really far-reaching and really negative impacts on our democracy.
Healable Hades asks, should we be okay with banning AI at a certain point?
Should we be okay with banning AI at some point?
Yeah, would you be okay with it?
I guess at some point, like if it's like killing us, yeah. But otherwise, I mean, AI is incredibly helpful for a large number of applications, so probably not right now.
Let's see. Rorton asks, what's a topic you could deliver an unprepared rant about for a minute straight? And he asks, could you please do it?
Fuck, it's hard to bring these up on. I don't know. I ran about all sorts of shit on my stream. Oh, if you play League of Legends, if you're a Riven or a Yasuo player, you're a literal subhuman fuck. They literally make these champions for people to play the game that wouldn't be able to play the game otherwise. Like there was probably like a crew of people that like couldn't click on their mouses right or couldn't use their keyboards that really wanted to enjoy League of Legends with all of their older, more mature, more intellectual friends, and they weren't able to do it. So they put champions like Yasuo and Riven in the game for these people. You can tell because the people that play these champions usually have like the emotional maturity of like an 8-year-old, as you'd expect. The champions oftentimes play like very easy. I'm pretty sure they even released like a league thing where they like showed that like these are the people that get banned the most, and they're like fucking Riven players who's like rank fucking 1. Fuck all of those types of people. Okay, get them the fuck out of here. If Hitler came back and he wanted to kill Riven and Yasuo players instead of Jewish people, I might give it a in a video game. I'm just kidding, Twitch. I love you. But yeah, there you go. That's the best I got.
Okay. Ark asks, well, he says that he was recently speaking with someone he knew who believes in an absurd conspiracy theory. Should he no longer speak to them or address their belief? I think he's asking if he should, challenge them on their beliefs or just cut them out.
I mean, I think having friends that have weird conspiracy theories, like constantly needling and prodding them, might be an effective way of getting them to change their mind eventually. Maybe. I don't know. I don't actually know. I haven't tried that before with like friends, like getting friends to like abandon like inane conspiracy theories. I'm not sure.
Expression asks, would you ever go back to old school RuneScape?
Would I ever go back to old school RuneScape? No. I don't think I have the time for that now.
What is the first game you've ever played?
The Duck Hunt Mario combination game was the very first game I ever played. I remember getting it on my little Nintendo and shit. The first serious game I ever played was probably Final Fantasy VII.
Okay. So I'm gonna spell this because I don't play League, and I think you guys are all fucking dweebs for doing it. But Waffle Boy Coney says I am a TAHM space KENCH main.
Mhm.
What does that mean about me as a person?
what is it? So to be a Tom Kench main, what does it mean about you? You probably like to troll a lot. It's not enough for you to fail at life, but you need to make other people around you fail. You probably eat your teammates and throw them into dumb fuck situations a lot, I'm sure. You have a lot of regen. You got a big shield that you can like use to like regen HP, so you probably don't like to take responsibility for your decisions very much. You probably don't like to make like big decisions. That's why your kit is like very simple, except for your ult. You probably only ever use that to run away from fights, though, never to engage them. And when you are engaging them, it's when you eat a teammate to go and throw him into the enemy team. That's what I'd say about Tom Kench players.
Wow.
I hate League of Legends, by the way.
You should be a fortune teller. Jeez,
Thanks, I
that's
try.
so accurate. Let's see. I'm just kidding, Wolf Boy. I love you, man. Let's see. Nova Sun asks if you've reached out to debate or discuss trans issues with ContraPoints at any point.
We contacted a little bit on Skype, but she usually doesn't respond to me. I think we're like running like very different circles. So
Bab asks if we should spend massive amounts of money on creating a more accessible public transport.
I think so. One of the saddest things to me, dude, every fucking European country I go to, the fucking public transport is unbelievable. It's like, it's an unreal experience as an American to like, there are so many countries I've been to where I can get anywhere I need to on public transit. In London, it's unbelievably amazing. In Poland, in Warsaw, it was unreal. In Germany, it's so fucking cool. Yeah, I don't know. I think that'd be cool to have in the US, but
All right. Waffle Boy Coney asks, let me add that I play Jung Kench. Does that make things better or worse?
somebody said they played Tom Kench. What?
Jung or Young, Jung?
Oh, Jungle Kench. What's the person's name?
Waffle Boy Coney.
Yeah, I don't even know. This is beyond analysis at this point. I don't know what the fuck to say to that guy. I'm so sorry.
Let's see. Arx asks, can you elaborate more on why deficit spending is not a bad thing?
On why deficit spending is not this sounds like a MMT question in disguise. Deficit spending is not always I don't know. This is like fucking hardcore monetary policy. Where are the macro econ people? They can answer this. Deficit spending is generally not good. I think that the argument is that like if you're just like doing a fuck ton of deficit spending, that eventually can cause inflation to happen in the economy, which can have downstream negative effects on your economy, on your job markets and your consumer markets. So I mean, like that's probably why generally deficit spending is bad. But I mean, like as long as those negative impacts aren't happening, then you're probably okay. Like
Stoat asks, why do you hate Empires of Arcadia?
that's a D&D campaign. That's a troll question. Ignore that guy. Okay. What's next?
Let's see here. Doge Cats asks, how do you feel about children being political figures, Greta Thunberg, for example?
It feels really weird to me. I don't know. I don't like it. Some people get really triggered when I say that, but it feels that's a very feels weird man to me. I don't know. It feels like it feels very Orwellian to me that I have like this 15-year-old. I don't know how much she believes what she's saying or how much like her parents have written for her. Like, man, I believed a lot of dumbass fucking shit when I was 15. I don't know, like the idea of like having these types of people like as like big like political figureheads or whatever, or like figureheads of movements is like really weird. If it's like people like out there like volunteering and doing stuff, I think that's cool. But like when it's literally just like people like giving speeches to the UN and shit, that's I don't know, it just feels really strange to me.
Let's see here. Tom asks what your opinion is on Raj Patel's political show, and would you consider appearing on it?
I don't think Raj Patel has a political show, does he? But if he did, of course I'd appear on it. Raj is like a friend of mine.
Ark asks, when should the barrier between federal government and the states come into play? For example, would reducing light pollution at the federal level be wrong?
Light pollution at the federal level?
Yeah,
I don't-
so light pollution, as in like from like
light.
street lights and stuff.
Yeah, I don't know if that's something that the federal government needs to get involved. I don't know if that's like such a huge deal that like we need like a huge thing for this right now or whatever. Like, is that like a big problem, like light pollution?
I don't think so. But the main thrust of his question was about, I guess, federalism, states' rights versus the federal government. What do you think should be the barrier between them?
I mean, things that can't be dealt with by a state ought to be dealt with by the federal government, I guess. Like, yeah. Yeah. So like things regarding like multiple states, like things like healthcare probably don't seem like they can be dealt with at a state level. It seems like it'd be better dealt with by a federal government. Yeah.
A user asks, what is your opinion on Yang's proposal that people be compensated for their data?
I mean, you kind of are compensated for your data and the services that you use that require you to give your data up. In terms of there being like a cash payment for it, I mean, I guess sites could do that if they wanted to, but
All right, let's see here. Okay, we've already covered that. Let's see. Okay. Bab asks, should we extend high school another 1 to 2 years to get an associate's degree?
fuck that shit. If people want to go to college for an associate's degree, they can, but like keeping kids locked in school for another 2 years, you should have the choice to do that, I think.
If you could change one thing about the way high school is done in America, what would you change?
More real life lessons. You should probably know how to like file your taxes. You should probably know how to like run a household, how to budget, how to never ever get a fucking credit card. Like stuff like that is probably important.
The NSA asks, do you think the intent of an action is more important than the result?
Do I think the intent of an action is more? No. I think it depends on what kind of questions we're asking.
So like on an individual level.
Like, hold on one second.
Yep.
Maybe. Okay. So like intention matters when you're trying to figure out like how to change somebody's mind. It's like why you do something. It's important to understand why you do something if I want to make you stop doing it. But in terms of understanding the impacts on other people, intent doesn't really matter that much. Like whether you intend to do something that's harmful or not, like it still has a negative impact on people. Yeah.
Wallander asks, who's your favorite league champion and why is it Shaco?
It's not Shago ever. Never. That would never be true.
Dogecast asks, why don't you like credit cards?
I think credit cards are predatory loaning. I don't think they should exist. I think the only way credit cards work is based on people not knowing how like credit works or interest works. You're basically abusing people's like inability to understand like finance.
Mm-hmm. Toastmaster asks, what has been your worst social experience among streamers?
My word, I don't know. Probably the stuff that happened over New Year's, but I mean, like you can go to my YouTube channel if you want to see a summary of all that shit. But I don't know. For the most part, most of my experience with streamers is generally okay.
So I don't know what this means, but Ace asks, how do you feel about people who say Twitch emotes in real life?
It's whatever. It's a meme. I don't know. I don't have a strong opinion about it.
Azusa asks, what should you look for in your sources to make sure they're reliable?
Reliable sources. Fuck, man. It would depend on the issue. I think just reading a large amount of information and then like kind of absorbing a lot of it. After a while, you should develop like intuitively like a sense of like what's reliable or what's kind of bullshit. I would hope.
Right. So like, after a while you should be able to just trust, oh, it's from Fox, so I can believe it.
Well, not necessarily that, but like if I were to read some news about the Middle East, like like if I were to read something, so like in Shadowlay, what if I were to read something where somebody's like, oh, Soleimani, that guy's like just going around like doing like peace missions. Like if I read an article about that on a site, you probably think like, okay, well, like this seems to be like a pretty one-sided analysis because we know who Soleimani is. We know the kind of stuff he's involved in. Like if there was some brokering of peace, like I'm sure that there were like other conditions attached to this, and I'm sure that other players were involved. Like, yeah, like the way that people word or phrase things, the different angles that people take on things. You know, if you read like, oh, you know, like the U.S. freedom bombed somebody today. Like, okay, well, it's probably not exactly what happened. Like, I don't know. Like, the more sources you read, and the better like holistic picture you get of something, the easier it is to kind of pick out. Like, okay, well, this source seems to be very heavily slanted towards this or that thing.
Are there any major American news outlets
You cut off. Are there any major American news outlets that what?
that you categorically distrust?
Fox News. I don't like it.
I think this is a fairly new thing. Have you heard about American One News or something like that?
Nope. Anything with America in the thing sounds like some right wing ultranationalist propaganda bullshit, though. It might not be though. That's just what it feels to me. Why? What is it?
I don't know if it's ultra nationalist, but I think you got the rest right.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know.
So Reeb asked, do you trust CNN for news?
I think CNN typically tries to do a good job. CNN, like the left-leaning publication, I think do a good job. Like the New York Times, Washington Post, CNN, I think do an okay job. And then for like articles, I think like the Atlantic seems to do a really good job. I've read a really good like New Yorker pieces. Vox sometimes. Slate seems to do a pretty good job. Mother Jones seems to do a pretty good job. Yeah, this is just like off the top of my head. Yeah.
Let's see here. Oh, this is a change of pace. Whatever. This user asks, do you have any general dating advice? Also, do you think it's unreasonable or unwise to want a partner who's into geeky stuff?
No, I think you should be really upfront with people if you're like getting into like dating. Like, don't some people, especially some geek people, think that you need to like hide your interests from a partner. That seems really fucking stupid to me. That seems like a really good way to guarantee that you end up in a relationship that makes you fucking miserable.
What are your general thoughts on dating apps?
I don't know. It feels like people. I think that people get a little too obsessed. I think we have a big problem in society today where I think we have a really problem in society today where we're like obsessed over having perfect control over every single aspect of our life. Like you want to be able to choose every single element of a person's personality. I don't think that's good. I think that people should like, I think meeting people in real life and getting like a feel for people in real life without just being obsessed with like them matching every single different characteristic or trait you have. I think it's good to be able to do that.
Ark wants to know, how would you approach a conservative friend discussing their political beliefs if they're largely based off of religion?
Oh shit, I'm sorry. Wait, could you repeat that one more time?
Ark wants to know how you would approach discussing um, a conservative friend's beliefs with them if their beliefs are largely based off of religion.
I mean, if you're religious, I mean, like going over the Gospels or the story of Jesus, it's pretty hard to end up as a conservative. Like, I think that like Jesus lived as pretty much like a fucking hippie loser that was trying to like do things for everybody. Like, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I have a really hard time believing that you could do like a fair reading of the Bible and come away feeling like you're very conservative. Like, I think you have to be pretty dishonest to get to that point.
Do you believe that Jesus ever existed?
I'm sure in some form. I'm sure some guy named Jesus probably existed and yeah, and did some stuff, but I'm a pretty atheist, so.
Okay. Well, that answers the next question. Uh, does pineapple belong on pizza?
If it, I don't like
Careful.
pineapple and stuff generally. The reason why I don't like pineapple and stuff is because pineapple tends to be a very overpowering thing. If I put pineapple in something, then that thing's going to taste like pineapple. So I'm not like a big fan of pineapple and stuff for that reason.
Let's see. Oh, this is gonna be fun. What are your thoughts on incest?
I take like a neutral position towards it. I don't make any big judgments about it. As long as everybody's like a consenting adult, then I don't care. No thanks, I'm okay. Thank you.
Who's worse, Ben Shapiro or Kyle Kalinske?
Who is worse, Ben Shapiro or Kyle Kalinske? I don't know. I think that those people represent like two sides of the same coin to me. Yeah, I've lost a lot of respect for Kalinske over the past couple of months.
What is? So I haven't been following Kalinske recently. What has Kalinske been doing that made you lose respect?
He's just a massive Bernie hack, like, and literally like, like that's it.
So for anyone that's joined recently, we're talking with Destiny. You can post questions in Destiny questions above this VC. And if you want to invite your friends, it's discord.gg/bluepolitics. Dogecats asks, should children not be allowed on the internet?
They probably can be with supervision.
Okay. What are your thoughts on the rating system for video games?
Like, which rating system? What do you mean?
You know, teen, mature, etc.
I think it does an okayish job at letting parents know like what they're getting into, I guess. I mean, it's obviously not that specific, but
So you have a child now. You know, M is supposed to be 17 plus. Would you allow your child to play an M-rated game before they're 17?
yeah, personally, I don't care. My barometer for that is like, as long as my kid like isn't having nightmares. Like, so he was playing a lot of those fucking horror games for a little bit, like the Five Nights at Freddy's, and he started to have nightmares about him. Like at that point, then it's like, okay, hold on, like take a step back. We're not gonna do this. But as long as I feel like he's engaging with it in a respectful manner, and it's not like, and he doesn't have like any antisocial activities occurring. So like my kid's never hit another kid or done anything like that.
Mhm.
As long as that stuff's not happening, then I'm usually okay with letting him explore whatever he's comfortable with. And then as long as he's comfortable talking to me about it, yeah.
Ace asks if there are any streamers you thought you wouldn't like when you met them in real life, but you ended up getting along real well with.
I don't know. I get along with most people in real life, I think. There was a streamer named Estfan that I didn't really like much online, and then I got along with him pretty well in real life. I think it's really important to see people in real life. I've said this a lot. I advocate for this a lot on stream. I might get more particular with it in the future, but like meeting people in real life is a really important thing. They're like online interaction is not a replacement for a real life interaction.
What are your thoughts on Boogie?
I think he fenced it's really hard. I think he victimizes himself really hard. I don't like him very much.
Doge Cats asks, do you agree with horseshoe theory? Why or why not?
No, I joked about it a lot, and I need to stop doing that. I think that like extremists on the internet everywhere act the same, but like the extreme left and the extreme right have pretty different views on the world. So no, I don't agree with it at all.
Gawi asks, what video games do you think every person should play?
I don't know if I'd say there are video games you should play. I don't even know. I'm not sure. I'd have to think about it. I mean, it really depends on what you're interested in.
Well, what ones would you most highly recommend?
Well, the problem is like all of my games that I grew up loving, I don't think they've aged well. Like I don't know if a normal person would like Final Fantasy VII or Ocarina of Time. I don't think those would be fun anymore. I don't know. Fuck. Man, I don't know. It really depends on the types of games that you like. I think Final Fantasy Tactics is a good one. Like I think that would be fun. Or that still like ages okay because of the art and everything. Maybe the Dark Souls games those are pretty hard though. I don't know, man. It would super depend on like if my little sister came up to me, like, what kind of game should I get into if I never played before? It's gonna be way different than like a guy that's like maybe played a little bit in the past or doesn't, or a guy that really likes sports, or somebody that likes like it really depends.
Okay. So I'm not sure what this is in reference to, but Major asks, how do you feel about double standards on Twitch?
Oh, that's a reference to like another Twitch streamer. It's a dumb meme. Go to the next one.
Okay. American Legend asks, After taking shrooms, have you noticed any permanent changes in your behavior? Do you view the world differently?
No, I don't think so.
What are your thoughts on marijuana use? I know you think it should be legal, but do you think it's good for an individual?
I think that if you have to smoke like every single day to function, I think that's really bad. I've had really bad experience. Like I think the people that do that are oftentimes kind of lost. I don't think that's good. Um, recreationally, I think it's fine. I smoke every now and then when I think it's fun or whatever. But yeah, I mean,
Uh,
like any behavior can be bad if you're using it like as an escape from your real life problems and you're getting like addicted to it, such that like if you don't do this on a daily basis, you're gonna feel like some big like emotional despair or something.
So you like debating people on the right, alt-right or right, either way. Have there been any times that they made an argument that actually changed your mind
On the alt right, no, I don't think so.
about just on the right generally?
I think I'm more chill on like I've changed my view of American foreign policy quite a bit. I used to be like a very strict anti-interventionalist, like at all costs, and I think that's a pretty naive view of the world to have now. I also think our democracy works a lot better than I give it credit for. And the reality is that people just vote like dumb fucks most of the time. I don't think it's always like large corporate lobby, donor influence, and blah 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 blah. I think there's just a lot of dumb people that vote. Yeah, those are probably some things that have moved a lot. I'm sure if I go back, I can think of more things that I've moved quite a bit on too.
Mm-hmm. So now it'd be hard to think of like the best one off the top of your head, but what's the best argument you can recall someone on the right making, even if you didn't agree with it? One you actually thought was a really good argument.
It's really hard. If I think it's a good argument, I'll usually agree with it. Like, so I don't know how to think of that one. Like, if somebody presents a better argument than I can for a given topic, then I'll just take on that argument. Like, yeah.
Okay. Tom wants to know how you feel about peer pressure with the use of drugs.
It's really, 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 really bad. You should never let anybody peer pressure you into doing a drug, and you should never peer pressure anybody into doing drugs. Like people's relationships with drugs are very personal, and you should respect other people's like exploration of those drugs. They can be a lot of fun. They can also be really scary. And you shouldn't push anybody to do something they're not comfortable with, or they're not well read on, or they're not prepared to do.
Daddy Nomad says, I have watched both Stefan Molyneux and you. Seems both of you give excuses on why you won't debate each other. What topic would you like to cover that you disagree with him on?
I'll debate anything Stefan Molyneux wants to talk about. I'm most interested in talking about his obsession with white nationalism, but I've never dodged debate on him ever. He blocked me on my previous Twitter accounts. He just recently ducked out in a debate that we almost had set up when he found out it was me. Yeah.
Okay.
What?
Who can't meme the most, the left or the right?
I don't know. That's a really hard one. I've seen some pretty shitty memes posted by both people. It seems like the right has probably got a better meme culture, though, because they spend more time online.
Major wants to know, will you be playing the Final Fantasy VII Remake on stream?
Yeah, of course.
When does that come out, by the way?
Is it in March?
I don't know. I haven't been in touch with it since, god damn it, 2000s.
March 3rd.
Let's see. Rui asks, do you think your online fame might negatively affect your kid's social life or outlook on life? How do
I'm
you
sure
think
it's got pros and cons. Like in some ways, he's excited that he has a dad that's a YouTuber and he likes to brag to his friends about it. In the future, people might make fun of him because of things that I've said or things that he's done on my stream. Like, yeah, that's going to be really weird to balance out when he gets a little older.
Whiskey Renegade asks, do you like Dungeons and Dragons or board games?
I like D&D a lot. I play a lot online. That's been a lot of fun for me. I don't do as many board games, although I might have fun with them, but I just haven't had the opportunity to.
He also wants to know if you think these things are going to disappear as video games become more immersive.
Board games have had a massive resurgence recently, so it doesn't seem to be the case.
Let's see. What are your favorite board games?
I don't really play board games. I used to play like Risk and Monopoly. I guess those are like pretty standard, but like
And should free parking always have $500?
I thought it was 200. I know that some people what they do is they would pay like every single fine you have to pay. They would go to the free parking thing, and if you land on it, you get it. But
Suiyu asks, what is your opinion on obvious politics in entertainment media?
what is obvious politics? What does that mean?
You know, when a video game developer is very clearly pushing a certain political view in a video game.
I think that everything is political in some sense. I think sometimes you can be very overt with your messaging. It's kind of cringy, but I mean, if you make it really overt when it's really cringy and really ham-fisted, it's probably not a good thing. I've noticed that a lot of people say sometimes politics, that word just means things I don't like, though. Like people will say, oh, I don't like it that this is political. I don't like political games. But it's like, okay, well, you said Metal Gear Solid 2 was like one of your favorite games of all time. What the fuck do you mean you don't like political games? Like what politics means is I don't like it when people talk about things that I don't want to talk about or that they have a different opinion than me. Oftentimes that's the case. So, yeah.
Clint Coin asks, you had the floor every day to speak your mind. Was there something you wish to communicate, especially to those outside your stream sphere? If so, what?
Stop being fucking dipshits. That's my thing. I don't like it when people use like emotions to like arrive at things that like they say are true, but it's pretty obvious that like it's just like a very emotional point of view for you. Stuff like fake news, stuff like inventing narratives, like to fit like grand conspiracy theories and shit like that. People obsessed with like the JQ and like I don't know, all like the Trump apologists that can't handle the fact that Trump might literally just be a blithering idiot and there's no like greater explanation for it. I don't know, that kind of stuff drives me crazy. But
Tripod asks, do you know the YouTuber Sean?
nope. Oh, like Sean and Jen?
I just got SHAUN.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm aware of him. Yeah, he seems like a pretty cool guy usually.
The Tripod is wondering what your thoughts are on their content.
Seems like pretty good mostly. Everything I've listened to seems pretty good from him.
Okay. Let's see. Cleric asks, what's one country you think everyone should visit? And what's one country you would like to visit?
I think New Zealand is like one of the prettiest places in the world I've been to. So I would say New Zealand probably. And then I don't know. I really want to go to Japan. I haven't had a chance to do that yet.
Let's see. Maine asks, how would you deal with narcissistic parents who justify their child abuse?
How do I deal with narcissistic parents who justify their child abuse? Well, if they're my parents, I just move out. For other kids' parents, tell them to stop. I don't know. What do you mean? Like, what would you do about it? Like,
make it a crime? I don't know.
Probably not. I don't think making bad parenting a crime is probably not a good idea.
Yeah. Definitely not. Karkin asks, have you sold your Bitcoin yet?
Nope, I'm still holding long.
Mike Escape asks, would you rather fight a lion or a cheetah?
Probably a cheetah, I think. I think for a cheetah, you'd kind of sort of have a chance, but lions are fucking huge, dude.
Let's see. Hot Sun asks, what was the biggest eureka moment in your life?
I think having firsthand experience with certain forms of like sexism or homophobia have been like pretty big moments of me where I'm like, holy shit, some people are like pretty disgusting.
Let's see. Slifer wants to know if you would consider doing seasonal anime trailer review streams for new upcoming anime.
No, what the fuck? This is way outside of the content that I normally do. No.
Let's see here. Tripod asks, if you were to move to another country, where would you move?
If I were to move to another country, where would I move? I have no idea. I don't know. I never really even thought about it. Probably Canada because it's most similar to America.
Let's- Nope, Stoat, we're not bothering. So I don't know what this is in reference to, but Pensive Goat asks, have you started locking your door after your recent experiences with unwelcome guests?
Sometimes I do.
So there's like a common refrain about like, you know, basically like changing societies that now people lock their doors. Do you think trust among neighbors and fellow citizens has deteriorated significantly?
I don't know if that's true or not. It feels like it because we're a lot less like community driven. It feels like that seems to be the case. But I mean, I didn't live a lot, back then, so it's hard for me to say that. Like a lot of people, for instance, say they lock their doors now more because of the huge increase in crime. But crime has been falling quite a bit since the '90s, so that doesn't seem to be the case. So I don't know.
What do you think is the main reason for that kind of mistrust, and how would is there a way that you think we could as a society address that?
Probably news cycles are probably really bad for people's like psyches or like mentalities. I think like people read things on the news and then they extrapolate it like really hardcore. Like that's probably pretty bad. I think for people in general, like news typically only reports sensational or negative news, and then that's what we tend to see most often, and then that causes people to have like a horrible impression of the world that like everything is going to hell and everything is fucked. It's probably really bad for our minds.
All right, so before we go on to the next question, I just want to say for the guys in here, plug tomorrow we're having Guchin on at 4 Eastern time, and we've been going on for about 2 hours here. I'm enjoying this. I'm happy to keep going. Are you fine going a bit longer with this, Destiny?
Yeah, maybe like a couple more questions. Should I go for it?
All right, let's see. In your opinion, what was your most successful debate?
I think my second debate with Nick Fuentes went really, really well. I think my debates with Lauren Southern and JonTron were both pretty popular. Those both went pretty decently. Yeah, I'd probably say those 2 or 3. JonTron was like my most famous one, and then my second one with Fuentes I felt really good about.
So you touched on this a little bit. Do you have any thoughts on Citizen United and basically campaign lobbying or finance?
Citizens United is a really, really, really tough one. It's probably good. I don't know what the alternative is in terms of like banning like advertising like around political seasons, which seems to be not good. Yeah, Citizens United is a really tough one. Yeah, fuck. The problem is that like everybody wants to say that like, yeah, that Citizens United should be banned. You shouldn't be allowed to show political ads or whatever around political seasons, or that should count towards like campaign contributions. But the problem is that like taking that to its logical extreme, like you literally wouldn't be able to advertise almost anything near a campaign season. Like if I had a documentary about global warming, I wouldn't be allowed to advertise that if like if we were coming up in election season, because that could be seen as like political speech. That's I don't know, I don't feel good about that.
Thinking back on the debates you've had, what do you think was the most challenging debate you've had?
Most challenging? I had one with a guy called Ryan Dawson who knew a fuck ton of shit about the Middle East and encouraged me to learn a lot more about it. It was probably one of the most knowledgeable people I've debated, I would say.
Do you think Hollywood actors are overpaid?
They're probably not. I mean, they're showing entertainment to like millions and millions of people, hundreds of millions of people. So,
okay. What are your thoughts in general about the interplay between liberty and safety?
I think liberty and safety are both really important. I don't know what the good balance is, what the appropriate balance is that we need to strike. It seems like I guess if we believe everything that came out of the Snowden leaks or whatever, it doesn't seem like there's a good reason not to believe any of that. That it seems like the state probably has a little bit too much power right now, insofar as like surveillance and whatnot goes. But I don't know. Of all the issues we're dealing with right now, that's not something I think about heavily.
Storm asked, which do you think is worse, the left's infighting or the right's?
In the real world, probably. Oh fuck, I don't know. There's a lot of infighting on both sides right now. The left, I mean, you see it more in the left because we're like in our primary season, and the right can pretend at least that they're united around Donald Trump. But man, there's a lot of infighting related to Donald Trump. Like the days of like Donald Trump shitting on his own attorney general, Jeff Sessions, like Paul Ryan and other big Republican leaders like constantly at ends with Donald Trump. Like, yeah, I don't know, man. There's a lot of Republican infighting. There's a lot of lefty infighting, or left like Democrat infighting as well. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know whose is worse right now.
Absolutely ask if you play any games with your son.
Yeah, sometimes we play. I actually just got my Minecraft server set up again, and hopefully we can play that. But yeah, we play like Minecraft in the past. We played Dying Light, which I fucking hate. And then we played a little bit of Left 4 Dead, but recently we haven't played anything too recently. But I think generally like Minecraft and those types of games are usually what we play.
Tujarden asks, what is your opinion of libertarianism?
About the same as my opinion of the anarcho people. It's a dumb meme waste of time.
What are your thoughts on capital punishment?
The problem right now is that if you want to capitally punish somebody, it's so expensive that it's almost not even worth doing. So like there's that. And then I guess it's fuck. There's different ways to break this down. I mean, we can break it down financially, like executing people costs a lot of fucking money, so we probably shouldn't do it. We can break it down morally, should the state have the authority to do it? We can break it down empirically or pragmatically. You know, is it worth it if some amount of innocent people are executed? Capital punishment isn't something that I worry about too much. I think in general, I'm probably okay with it. If you got like this horrible, murderous, whatever monster that can never be rehabilitated, then fucking kill him, I guess. In general, I'm more in favor of taking like a rehabilitative approach to justice than like a punishment or retribution or revenge focus on justice, though. So for those reasons, I think maybe I might be opposed to capital punishment because it's usually used in a retributive fashion. So, yeah.
Is there a certain limit where you think someone is beyond rehabilitation?
No. Well, I mean, it's possible, I guess, but like in general, no, I don't think so.
Okay. So Elizabeth Warren has recently proposed raising a tax on the super wealthy in order to pay off I believe the idea was all student loans up to a certain amount per individual. What are your thoughts on that?
The tax that she's proposed, a wealth tax, in general, I'm opposed to wealth taxes because they're very, very, very hard to administer, and our IRS is already insanely underfunded. And I think they're sloppy in general. Wealth taxes, I don't think, are a very good way to tax wealthy people. So I mean, on that level, I'm not really in favor of it. In terms of like paying back student debt, I think that needs to be really targeted. If you have a bachelor's degree and you're out working because of your degree, you don't need a payback. Like you're earning a fuck ton more money as a result of having your degree, you should pay it back. In terms of like people that got fucked in other circumstances, though, like maybe there might be cases where like getting these people their money back might be good. But, yeah.
What are your general thoughts on cryptocurrencies?
They're fun to speculate with, but I don't see them as being like paradigm changing anytime soon.
What are your thoughts on a land value tax?
I don't really know much about it. I think I've heard good things about LBTs. I don't know much about it, so I don't have a strong opinion. So,
okay. Do you have any thoughts on Erdogan?
Seems like a shitter dude, but I'm not a big fan of like authoritarianism. So,
any thoughts on Syria and Assad?
I think that the U.S. fucked up really hard in meddling with that region. I think we kind of set the whole world a little bit further to the right as a result of the Syrian refugee crisis and everything. I don't know. Maybe that would have been just as bad without any U.S. involvement at all. But yeah, in general, I think our general handling of Syria was like pretty bad. I think.
What are your thoughts on the border wall?
Stupid. I don't even think it would help with illegal immigration and the whole the symbolism and everything behind it. It's really 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 dumb. Just for a bunch of racist white people to feel better about themselves.
Should we give amnesty?
Yeah, I think so. That seems to be like the most reasonable course of action that would like produce like positive outcomes that like could actually realistically happen.
Kale asks, what is your knowledge about the revolution that's going on in Iraq / or fighting against their own government?
Fighting against their own government in Iraq. I don't know anything very recent about Iraqi politics. I knew more in like the post like Iraqi war days, like when we set up the new government and everything, and like a little bit prior to that. But I haven't been following news in Iraq recently, so I wouldn't know too much about it.
Test Acer asks, what are your thoughts on Marx's labor theory of value?
Boring, stupid, boring to talk about, boring to think about.
You just got a fan. Sweetie asks, is racism a notable problem in America?
Not like overt racism, but subtle racism. Yeah, I would say it's still a pretty big problem. Yeah.
Could you expand on that? You said it's not overt racism.
Like
but
we don't
it's
have
still
like
a
people
problem.
running out like lynching black people in the streets or anything, which is good because we used to do that. But we do have like like different systemic things that fuck with different races. So like black people still get fucked, say for instance, by the war on drugs. That's still like a really bad thing that happens that we need to get rid of. Like those types of institutions still really haven't been dismantled very effectively.
Oh, this is a name. Oh shoot, this is a name that hasn't come up in a long time. What are your thoughts on Stefan? Or no, I'm sorry, not Stefan.
Milo
Shoot.
Yiannopoulos.
Milo. I don't know how the fuck you got that, but yeah, Milo Yiannopoulos.
Because he's a name that hasn't come up in a long time ago. Yeah, I just context. Milo Yiannopoulos, he faded off into non-existence when he needed to. He was a fucking idiot. He was just a provocateur. Wasn't very intelligent. Like, fuck that guy.
All right, let's see. Lil Davy asks, "Are you still looking at getting a motorcycle?
I really want to, but I don't know. We'll see.
Thoughts on mopeds?
I think a moped is like a scooter motorcycle, right? Kind of.
It's like it looks more like a scooter, but you sit on it.
Yeah, I think that's what we rode around in Miami. I got to ride my first like scooter things like a couple weeks ago. I actually really liked it. That's what drove on me like really wanting to get a motorcycle now. But yeah, I thought they were really cute. I liked it a lot.
So, like, are you looking at like a Harley or?
Oh, I'm not looking at fucking anything yet. If I were to get a bike, that would be a sports bike, 100%.
Oh, okay.
But I have a kid. I don't want to like kill myself, and I drive for fun. So it's entirely possible I would kill myself. So I don't know.
All right, let's see. Already covered that. Let's see. Easy asks, will you bring back Monday Mail?
Will I bring back Monday Mail? No, fuck that.
Seema asks, do video games make people more violent?
It seems like they increase aggression. I think there was a huge meta-analysis that came out recently that kind of pointed towards that they can increase aggression. Now, whether that leads to actual like violent activities, I don't think that's been borne out. But yeah.
Let's see. What are your thoughts on Trump's policy on transgender people in the military?
Stupid. Most of Trump's policies are stupid, though. Trans people have already been vetted like pretty hardcore by the military. There's been a lot of research and studying into that. There is no reason for him to come in and through executive action or Twitter executive action try to change any of that.
Do you have any thoughts on women in the draft?
If we start drafting people, hell yeah, draft those motherfuckers, sure.
And do you have any thoughts on women in combat roles?
Yeah, as long as they can like pass whatever test we have for men to do it, then yeah, sure.
Oh, this is a really good one. Were the Nazis socialists?
No.
What were they then, apart from obviously fascist?
What would Nazi? I'm not
Like,
sure what you would characterize it. I know that like they the word privatization like literally comes from from what like Nazi Germany, like that word was invented to describe what Hitler did to a lot of parts of the economy, like privatizing like certain industries or whatever for like wartime related stuff. But like in terms of like them, like the means of production weren't controlled by laborers, and the mode of production, like having like a centrally planned economy, like never happened. Like by no definition were they socialists. Like that just wasn't. The government. A lot of people think like government ownership of stuff is socialism, but it's not really. Like China, for instance, isn't socialist. It's a state capitalist country. Yeah, I don't know.
do you believe it was possible for the Nazis to win in World War II?
Sure, I'm sure it's possible. I don't know what would have had to change to make that happen, but
Let's see.
wait, sorry, hold on, because you got some guy like fucking literally freaking the fuck out. Government ownership is not socialist. So socialism usually implies two things. His definition of socialism is trash. Okay, so the definition of socialism a lot of people use is like, oh, the government owns stuff, lol. So my understanding of socialism or communism is the idea is two things have to happen. One, your means of production change, meaning that you don't have the people that own the capital or the private property, the capital, are the workers that actually work the capital. Those people have ownership of it. That's not enough, though, to make it socialist. The next step is that the mode of production, meaning how you determine which goods and services are produced, that is dictated by some other body. It's not done using like market forces. So like workers could own a firm but still produce things for profit, but those workers are essentially exploiting themselves to do it, right? So that's my understanding of socialism or communism, is that the mode and the mean of production are the two things that need to change for it to be socialist. Government owning stuff is just the government owning stuff. That's not socialism or communism. Yeah. Okay, sorry. But like for instance, like so in China, a lot of industries might be publicly owned, but they still produce things for a profit. So those things are state capitalist, and the government owns it, so the government makes the profit off of it, not the workers. So that would be like a state capitalist. Your mode of production hasn't changed because you're using a market system to determine what to produce, and your means of production haven't really changed because the owner of the capital, the government, is not the people. There. Okay.
Do you have any thoughts on the minimum wage?
It seems like small increases in the minimum wage have been positive for the most part. A massive bump all over the country, like a one size fits all, probably not good. But yeah.
Let's see here. This comes from one of our server syndicalists. Do you think it would be a good idea for companies to become cooperatives?
I mean, if it works, if it works, it works. If it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. I mean, there are examples of some really. There's an example of some like very successful cooperatives, like the Mondragon Federation of Cooperatives in Spain. A lot of people tried cooperatives and failed. Like, yeah, I don't know.
Thoughts on the
Wait,
electoral?
oh fuck. I'm getting so fucking triggered. Okay, hold on. I'm reading this guy. Calling it state capitalist, dodging the fact that even Stalin was a fully committed Marxist-Leninist. He believed in a Marxist analogy. His definition of socialism says that the USSR wasn't socialist, therefore his definition is incomplete. The USSR wasn't socialist yet. So a Marxist-Leninist, an ML, believes that you need a vanguard party. You need a totalitarian party essentially to step in, disband all the fucking private capital, and then that party is what will transition you over to socialism or communism. No state in the world has made it to like socialism or communism yet, if you ask a leftist, right? They haven't gotten there. A vanguard party that has single ownership rule of the country, that's not a socialist system. It's not a communist system. Like, I hate socialism, I hate communism, but the USSR technically wasn't like a socialist thing. You can call yourself that, but that doesn't mean you are that. Yeah, so like the Soviet Union was at the stage where they had the vanguard party and where they were fucking over like capital owners and shit, and they were theoretically trying to move in the direction of socialism. Now, in my opinion, it seems like socialists seem to have a strange authoritarian bend. But yeah, I don't think anybody would say that like the USSR was like at the point where they were a full-on socialist country yet. Okay, fuck, sorry. Okay, go. Okay.
Oh, right. We're on co-ops. I don't know if you said all you had to say.
Oh yeah, if people want to try co-ops, go for it. It seems like yeah, if they want to try co-op, go for it. I wouldn't say they should. I mean, I don't know like where co-ops are successful and where they're not. Like I'm sure in different industries they're probably more successful than in others.
Thoughts on the Electoral College?
This is a huge thing that my fans hate me for. I'm in favor of the Electoral College. I think that balancing out like states' interests with population interests are probably good. I'm okay with the Electoral College.
All right, let me just run one more check here. I'm in the wrong chat.
Okay, we've been doing this for a while. I got 2 good questions left in me. Okay.
All right, 2 more. So let's see. Has the repeal of net neutrality has the repeal of net neutrality had any consequences today?
In my understanding, not yet. Maybe it has in ways that I haven't seen though. But yeah.
Okay. And who would you say is your favorite American president?
I don't know. Bill Clinton seemed like a chill dude, but that's just because of the people that I remember, like that I was alive for. My U.S. history is most of my history outside of like the pretty niche topics that I like investigate. I don't have like a very good broad knowledge of history, especially American history. So, I'd say like, I mean, I could go with like a meme answer like Washington or Abraham Lincoln, because those guys seem pretty important. But I honestly I don't know enough about like the pros and cons of both of all of their presidencies to really say like this was a really good president. You know.
All right. So, Destiny, thanks for coming out. I really appreciate this. So, if anyone here is not familiar with Destiny, we're going to be posting a link to his YouTube channel announcements. Stay tuned for that. And if you guys want to invite any of your friends, it's discord.gg/bluepolitics. We try to have these about twice a week. Destiny, before we let you go, we're having these, like I was just saying, about twice a week. Would you be interested in perhaps having a debate with an anarcho-capitalist about anarcho-capitalism?
Maybe. Yeah, if you can't find anybody else, I might do it. I don't know. God, it's so boring. Like, I mean, like I could like write out like the whole debate. Like it's like, oh, I think anarcho-capitalism is really cool. Well, why is that? Getting rid of unjust hierarchies and like all the freedom that we could have. Well, how would you resolve disputes between parties? Well, I don't know, but well, what would you do? Maybe we'd have some body of people that would come together. Oh, yeah, and then eventually they would describe a government, and then we would both jerk each other off and then walk away. I don't know. That's like every every debate I've ever had usually comes with that. How do you resolve disputes between parties? Either they'll say like, well, whoever's got the most guns wins. Most people won't bite that bullet. Usually they'll say like, oh, well, you need some sort of arbitration, blah, blah, blah. And that arbitration starts to sound eerily similar to some form of government. And then fuck all that shit. I don't know. I hate anarcho everything.
All right. Is there a certain type of person you would prefer to debate?
Yeah. A guy named Stefan Molyneux or Steven Crowder or Mark Dice. Any of those people. Hell yeah.
Okay.
But otherwise, I'm trying to debate more conservatives. That's like my goal for 2020.
Okay, I think we might be able to get one of those set up. So we'll be in touch. Once again, thanks. Really appreciate this. I know I had fun. I think most of our users did, and I hope it was good for you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I had fun. Thanks a lot.